Good evening. Welcome to the April 8th meeting of the Oceanside City Council. Could we have roll call, please, Mr. Navarro?
Mayor Sanchez.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Joyce. Present. Councilmember Figueroa.
Present.
Councilmember Robinson. Councilmember Weiss.
Thank you. Please rise for the invocation. Tonight we have Senior Pastor James Schrader from the Wave Church.
If you please bow your head. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this evening, and we thank you, and we acknowledge your presence in this room. Today, we invite your presence to be here and to bring wisdom, to bring just everything that needs to come from your throne on high. We pray right now a supernatural blessing over our mayor, every council person. Father, we thank you that your presence is in this room, and Lord, we declare right now that every topic that is on the calendar, everything that is going to be discussed is under your guidance and your sovereignty. So Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We exalt your name on high, and we give you all the praise, all the glory, and all the honor. And we ask all this in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. And everyone said, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilmember Figueroa, would you please lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. I'm going to go ahead and read the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge the Payom Kawicham, the people of the West, as the traditional land caretakers of the land on which Oceanside is built and its surrounding traditional cultural landscapes. Today, the Payom Kawicham are known as Luiseño and are made up of 7 bands: La Jolla, Palapalma, Pechanga, Rincon, San Luis Rey, and Saboba. We are mindful of the indigenous peoples in this place, and we pay our respects to the Luiseño, past, present, and emerging. We are grateful to have the opportunity to be part of this community in Luiseño territory and to honor their history, culture, and perseverance of spirit. Now we're at our proclamations and presentations part of our city council meeting. And tonight we've got a couple of proclamations. The first one is in honor of Earth Month and Earth Day 2026. And I understand we have the green team in the house. Do we have the green team in the house? Come on in, come on down, green team. Yeah, they wear blue because that's the City of Oceanside color, but really their hearts, minds and souls are green because they really, really believe it's not just talk for them, it's walk the walk, and they get all very, very excited about Earth Day, Earth Month, right? So whereas the mission of the City of Oceanside's Green Oceanside campaign is to promote conservation of natural resources, protect the environment, and to be a better stewards of the earth through community involvement and engagement. And whereas each year, Green Oceanside staff and partner organizations collaborate to facilitate public participation opportunities that help our community protect the environment through zero waste, watershed protection, water use efficiency, climate action, and energy conservation. And whereas on April 25th, 2026, that is the last Saturday of the month for you all. You don't want to, it's the last Saturday of the month. You know where you're going to be. The Oceanside community can celebrate Earth Day by joining the largest Creek to Bay environmental cleanup event in San Diego County. And you don't have to go anywhere outside of Oceanside. There are several cleanup sites, including at Oceanside's Buccaneer Beach. That's 9 a.m. to 12 noon. You can register at cleansd.org, and all ages are welcome. And whereas on April 25th, 2026, the same day, again, the last Saturday of the month, Green Oceanside is also celebrating Earth Day at Joe Valderrama Park, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. alongside the Eastside Neighborhood Association's celebration of Dia del Niño. Join the Green Oceanside team for a family-friendly Earth Day community event packed with games and eco-friendly fun for all ages. Participants can visit the on-site water trailer for refreshments in reusable cups and join in on a neighborhood cleanup to help keep the environment pristine. Don't miss out on the excitement as we celebrate our planet with sustainable giveaways and there's even more surprises. And whereas, through the combined efforts of residents, local businesses, and other community members, the City of Oceanside will move closer to achieving zero waste goals, protecting watersheds, increasing water efficiency, and continuing efforts for climate action and energy conservation. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Sanchez, do hereby proclaim April 2026 and April 25th, 2026 as Earth Month and Earth Day, respectively, in the City of Oceanside, and further do hereby challenge all residents to participate in Oceanside's Earth Day events at Buccaneer Beach and Joe Balderrama Park to make our community and the world a better place to live. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Sanchez. Thank you so much. The Green Oceanside team is so excited to be here tonight in honor of Earth Month 2026. And our mission at Green Oceanside is to educate the community about environmental stewardship, the power of community, and of course, to keep Oceanside beautiful and healthy. And just to highlight a few things that you already mentioned, we are hosting the free Earth Day community event Saturday, April 25th, 11 to 3 o'clock at Joe Balderrama Park, as mentioned, with Neighborhood Services Dia del Niño. And we'll be hosting educational booths, family-friendly games, and as said, the water trailer will be on site. So we encourage everybody to bring reusable water bottles to fill up. Participants can also visit the Green O booth to volunteer for the neighborhood cleanup. And you can find events throughout the year and other ways to make everyday Earth Day at greenoceanside.org. So thank you to everyone for taking action, and happy Earth Month.
Did you hear that? Happy Earth Month, yes. Did you say who we are? Our names?
Oh, Bronte Cash, Watershed Protection Program Manager.
Rocio Ramos, Solid Waste and Recycling.
Janine Rodarte, Solid Waste and Recycling.
Victoria Nava McClellan, Solid Waste and Recycling.
Rosemary Chora, Division Manager.
Maya Rios, Watershed Protection Program.
Zoe Smith, Watershed Protection.
Ken Prue, Solid Waste and Recycling.
Elisa Marone, Water Efficiency Program Manager.
Thank you. And, you know, we were the only city in the entire county to do a resolution in support of zero waste Oceanside. That was what, 2010, 2011 back then. And the efforts of the Green Team has gotten bigger, okay? Because back then there were maybe 2 or 3 that did this in the county. Rosemary knows, right? She's been from the very, very beginning. So I am just very, very proud of the Green Team and you know, what they're able to do with our partners. We do partner with Waste Management and also with the Chamber of Commerce, right? And also we have other partners. Main Street Oceanside, yes. So it's incredibly important to have partnerships because the only way we're gonna do this is if we do it together. Yes? Yes. All right. So thank you very much, and we're gonna go ahead and take a picture. Yes? Invite the council. Thank you. Thank you, guys. You rock. You rock. I hope you all know where you're going to be the last Saturday of the month, right? September 25th. Thank you. Next, we do have a proclamation in honor of National Fair Housing Month. And we do have one of our partners here to accept the proclamation. Could you come on down? This is from CSA, San Diego County, who actually are really at the ground level on this in terms of helping folks with housing issues. A great, great partnership. So whereas April 2026 marks the 58th anniversary of the passage of the Federal Fair Housing Act, Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1968, as amended, which enunciates a national commitment to fair housing without regard to race, color, religion, gender, national origin, familial status, and disability. And whereas the Fair Housing Act was signed on April 11th, 1968, just 1 week after the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And whereas the California Fair Employment and Housing Act of 1963, as amended, offers additional protections for fair housing without regard to marital status, age, source of income, sexual orientation, medical condition, gender identity, source of income, and other arbitrary status. And whereas the City of Oceanside, in partnership with the Legal Aid Society of San Diego, Inc., and CSA San Diego County, is committed to federal and state fair housing laws by continuing to address discrimination in our community, supporting programs that will educate the public about the right to equal housing opportunities, and implementing partnership efforts with other organizations, such as Interfaith Community Services, as well as others, to help assure every American of his or her right to fair housing. And whereas Fair Housing Month has helped open doors of opportunity for countless families since its passage, and making significant progress in achieving equal housing access for all individuals. And whereas the City of Oceanside acknowledges the efforts of the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing, and countless other state agencies, local governments, and community members for promoting fair housing. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Sanchez, on behalf of the City of Oceanside, do hereby proclaim April 2026 as National Fair Housing Month in the City of Oceanside, and encourage all Oceanside residents to become more aware of their rights and responsibilities within our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mayor Sanchez. I'd like to thank also Cecilia Varendian and Liliana Hines for the partnership and collaboration. This is our 58th annual anniversary for Fair Housing Act, as Mayor said, since Fair Housing Act 1968. April 11th is always Fair Housing Month, and we'd like to invite anyone that has any housing issues to please give us a call, contact Oceanside. We have offices here in Oceanside. Kevin is our counselor there, and George is always here as well, advocating for any housing projects that you have, or tenant landlord issues, for housing issues, protected classes, federal and state protected classes, as the mayor mentioned in the proclamation. So thank you very much for your dedication and your commitment to fair housing.
Thank you. Say your name, so, yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is George Ibarra. I'm the Senior Fair Housing Counselor at CSA San Diego County Fair Housing. And I'd like to acknowledge Cecilia and Lilani. Thank you for your continued collaboration. You do a wonderful job, and we appreciate you to the fullest. And thank you. Thank you for the proclamation.
Estela de los Rios, I'm the Executive Director of CSA San Diego County. Thank you.
And Kevin Bibiano, Fair Housing Counselor at CSA San Diego County, and also the representative here in Oceanside.
And could you say what your hours are and where you are?
Yes, I'm at the Chavez Resource Center, Monday through Wednesday, 8 a.m. to 4:30, and Thursday through Friday, I'm at the Libby Lake Community Resource Center, same hours.
Keep them busy.
And everyone is welcome to come there and make phone calls as well, because you can also talk to people on the phone, correct? Yes, absolutely. So it's not, we want to make access as easy as possible. And we do have Leilani Hines, our housing director. Did you want to say anything, Leilani? I mean, I'm looking at you thinking, she should be up here because she does a whole lot.
Well, I just wanted to remind folks again that because of the commitment of our leadership here in Oceanside and with CSA San Diego as our community partner, we're making great strides to ensure that really housing is more than just the four walls. It's a place where we know our families grow, where we find safety, where our kids go to school, that determines it. And so where you choose to live should always be your fundamental right and not just for a few people. So just wanted to make sure that I give kudos to our leadership here and to our community partner for always being committed to that. Thank you.
Thank you, and we're gonna go ahead and take a picture. Oh, Maria, did you want to say something? Oh, okay, I didn't see the camera. All right, so if our council members can join us up here for the photo op. Because it really does take a team, you know. Thank you very much. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks again, Mayor.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Good to meet you.
Good to see you again. They also counsel on issues for homeowners in mobile home parks. Okay, so we're at our closed session report. Mr. Burke?
Thank you, Mayor. Council met earlier today on closed session on item 1, conference with labor negotiator regarding Oceanside Police Officers Association non-sworn. No reportable action at this time. Also met on item 2, conference with real property negotiator involving 2 properties. First property, 1 Pier View Way, negotiating parties City of Oceanside and OS Pier LLC. Second property, 450 Country Club Lane, negotiating parties City of Oceanside and the Boys and Girls Club of Northwest San Diego. No reportable action for either item at this time. And then we also met on item 3, potential initiation of litigation involving 1 case. No reportable action on that as well.
Thank you. So we are now on the consent calendar, items 4 through 24. Do we have any requests to pull or to speak by the public?
Item number 22 was pulled by a member of the public.
Okay, any requests is to pull by council member? Seeing none, do we have a motion for approval of the balance? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you. Number 22 is staff recommends the city council adopt a resolution authorizing the submittal of an application for a public beach restoration program grant in the amount of $22.9 million to the State of California Department of Parks and Rec, Division of Boating and Waterways, committing to a 15% matching fund contribution of $4 million, and authorizing the city manager in consultation with the city attorney to negotiate and execute all agreements and amendments necessary to comply with the Department of Boating and Waterways grant requirements.
Our speaker is Carolyn Kramer.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Kramer? And the grant is for sand.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for allowing me to express my concerns with the proposed Re-Beach project. We all want the same thing, sand, but it is how we get there is where we do not agree. I have grave concerns about losing our surfing beach breaks from South Pier to Wisconsin and south to the Buena Vista Lagoon. When we block natural sand flow, we block the natural flow of sand that forms our beach breaks. Installing 2 groins and an artificial reef that acts as a breakwater wall to prevent wave energy will kill our surf breaks and the surf economy that comes along with surfable waves. We are dealing with the unintended consequences from many years ago caused by our harbor, the detention basins in the San Luis Rey River, and all the riprap that lines about 95% of our Oceanside coastline. We know what caused the problem, so why do we want to compound the problem by adding more hard structures that caused the problem in the first place? Why do we continue to propose the same things, hard structures, that caused the problem when there is an alternative solution? We need to recreate the sand flow from the Santa Margarita River over to our beaches south of North Coast Village and let nature do what she does best and naturally distribute the sand. On a recent surf business trip, my son Eric took the photos here. They were taken on March 17th of this year of the Tweed River sand bypass system that has been operating successfully in Australia since 2001. There are currently over 35 functioning sand bypass systems in Australia. They work. It is expensive, oh yes, but so is the proposed Rebeach project with the currently proposed location, Tyson to Wisconsin, and then 2 more projects south of Wisconsin Street. And they will also need replenishment as well, along with another costly dollar infusion. Why not let nature do it for us with a sand bypass system? Question before I end here. The DEIR comment period ended November 17th in 25. That is 3.5 months ago. When can we expect to see the responses to the comments and the final EIR? Then the public hearings, and then certification of the EIR. The Citizens for the Preservation of Parks and Beaches and the Surfrider Foundation asked for alternatives that were not included in the DEIR. Thank you, Carolyn Kramer. And by the way, Katie Simmers just won her heat at the Bells Pro.
Cool. All right, for Oceanside, right? Yep. Yes. Representing surf community, yes. Thank you. So this is item 22, and Mr. Borrego, did you have something to add?
Honorable Mayor and council members, I did want to add something specific to the notion of a sand bypass system, as was mentioned by Ms. Kramer. So council may recall that in the past conversations about the Rebeach project, there was a specific request to analyze the feasibility of a sand bypass system. And we actually have now completed a pretty comprehensive study, a feasibility study of a sand bypass system, and we expect that's going to be presented to City Council very shortly. So I just wanted to let the public know that we actually have done a feasibility study of a sand bypass system, as was directed by council, and we'll be presenting the findings of that study in short order.
Yes, thank you. The council had directed that staff look into a bypass system, so that's really good. And as to this, the City of Oceanside joined other coastal cities to lobby for funds that the Department of Boating and Waterways, that used to be its own separate department, be funded finally, because once it was moved under Parks Department, no monies had been flowing into the Department of Boating and Waterways. So this is 22 million out of, I believe it's 200 million that we're hoping will comprise the total amount. And this would move us greatly in the direction of being able to provide sand on our beaches. I'm going to go ahead and move approval. Is there a second? Okay, there's a motion and second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you. Item number 25, staff recommends City Council take the following actions prior to July 1st, which is actually not the deadline. I guess it is a deadline, right? July 1st, 2026, to implement updates to the Brown Act pursuant to Senate Bill 707. Number 1, direct staff to implement remote public participation at City Council meetings via two-way telephonic audio system. Number 2, direct staff to bring back appropriate policy or ordinance updates to address how public comment signups will be handled for all agenda items so that the rules for both in-person and remote public comments are uniformly applied. That means they have to be equal, both in person and by phone. Number 3, adopt a resolution approving a council policy addressing disruption of telephonic or internet service during public meetings. Number 4, direct staff to implement Spanish language translation for agenda documents and approve policies for how to manage live translation needs. And number 5, direct staff regarding policies for enhancing public awareness and participation in city council meetings. And the person in charge of doing all of this is our city clerk, Mr. Zeb Navarro. Yay. So Zeb, could you please do a presentation for us?
With pleasure. Honorable Mayor and council members, Zeb Navarro, City Clerk. Today I'm here to talk about SB 707, the Brown Act updates. Staff is recommending that the City Council take the following actions prior to July 1st, 2026 to implement updates to the Brown Act pursuant to Senate Bill 707. 1, implement remote public participation for city council meetings. 2, standardize public comment procedures. 3, adopt policy for service disruptions. 4, provide Spanish translation services. And 5, improve public awareness and engagement. A quick overview of SB 707. SB 707 updates the Brown Act to expand public access. City council meetings starting July 1st, 2026 must comply with SB 707. The key goals of SB 707 are as follows: increase remote participation, improve language access, and enhance public awareness and engagement. The council must adopt policies and procedures to ensure compliance. I also want to note that SB 707 only applies to the City Council and not our boards and commission or the Planning Commission. Remote participation requirements. The city must provide two-way remote access for City Council meetings. Remote participants must be treated the same as those in attendance. Example, we cannot have people that are participating remotely speak for 1 minute and give in-person participants 3 minutes. That's one of the scenarios. So we have to treat both in-person and remote participants equally. Staff is recommending that we use a Zoom-based telephonic audio-only system. The reason being is that it will reduce disruption and security risks such as Zoom bombing. For our council members that were here during COVID, it would be similar to what we did during COVID, except there would be no video, only audio. The public comment policy. SB 707 requires equal access for remote and in-person comments. Council has, as I've written in the staff report, our current municipal code states that if anybody wishes to talk on an item, their speaker slip must be received prior to the start of the meeting. Once the meeting starts, no more speaker slips. This is a practice we have not been enforcing, and we've allowed speaker slips all the way up until we call for the public comment on the agenda item. So we have to come up with a public comment policy that would be equal to both people participating in person and remotely. The first option would be to set up a clear sign-up deadline before consent agenda items are called by the mayor, or allow sign-ups until each item is called. Staff is recommending option 1 as it will reduce administrative challenges with trying to sign up people for the agenda all the way up until the agenda item is called. An additional recommendation would be to eliminate the group presentations. Group presentation policy currently dictates that all members must be present during the 10 minutes of the speakers. It is currently enforceable in person, but would be very difficult to enforce remotely, as various speakers from various states could call in and we didn't know if they're the same person or not. So staff is recommending that we eliminate the group presentations. Again, during COVID, we had a cutoff time for remote speakers, and we allowed in-person comments all the way up until the agenda item is called. So now we have to treat both in-person and remote participants equally. Operational policies and language access. The City Council must adopt a policy for internet or telephonic service disruptions. The staff report outlines what would happen if there would be a disruption of teleconferencing services at a city council meeting. The city would make a good faith effort to restore that connection within 1 hour, and if the city is unable to restore that connection, the meeting will be adjourned for the day. Part of SB 707 also includes translation of agendas into Spanish. Again, this only applies to the agenda and does not apply to staff reports and attachments. The public may post their own translations of the agenda at the designated kiosks where council agendas are posted. They could also post them in other languages such as Mandarin, Tagalog, or other languages. The city does not, SB 707 does not require the live translation of meetings. However, we do make good faith accommodations for translation via personal devices that will be offered. And of course, in the past, when there has been a request for in-person translation, we have arranged for an in-person Spanish translator. Another aspect of SB 707 is public outreach. And this is to help increase public awareness and participation through the following: having a centralized meeting webpage and community outreach to our libraries, neighborhoods, and we do plan on working with our Community Relations Commission on helping with outreach efforts in historically underrepresented populations. Part of SB 707 also includes that we must provide clear instructions on the agenda for how to participate at a city council meeting. The fiscal impact of this is going to be very minimal at first. However, there will be potential for future costs as technology changes, and this could exceed the city manager's spending authority. Our recommendation tonight is that the council take the following actions prior to July 1st, 2026 to implement updates to the Brown Act pursuant to Senate Bill 707. 1, implement remote public participation for city council meetings, standardize public comment procedures, adopt policy for service disruptions, provide Spanish translation services, and improve public awareness and engagement. We do have staff available to answer any questions, and we do have one public speaker on this item.
All right. Mr. Knott?
Jimmy Knott?
Did I guess that right? Okay. Thank you.
Mayor, council members, Jimmy Knott, 127 Sherry Lane. I read the entire report and educated myself on this, and I submitted some ideas to the city clerk, and I also wanted to bring forward some ideas to you. Is that first off, there are many ISPs or internet service providers. The only one that the city controls is the one through our IT department. I think you should take and specify that the issues should be limited to those that you control. That's the city's IT, response. Otherwise, you're trying to address all the different ISPs that may be servicing all the individual homes that may have buffering issues. So I would advocate for that. Secondly, I think that there should be a decorum policy for those people at home or at another location, because the decorum policy for verbal assault may be used, and I think that that is something that we need to consider, is that decorum, it can be verbal as well as physical or other means. And then you should have some form of backup in case our IT system breaks down. And back in COVID, you remember there was phone backup. I would suggest that you would take that into consideration. And you should also take in consideration is that there is prior to the start of meetings, this is an issue back and forth. Well, sometimes staff brings up issues that need to be addressed. I think there should be an out so that the public can have a chance for response into that, even up to the last minute. So I would encourage that there's some way that the public can respond if staff changes their presentation. And finally, that there is something called the Americans with Disabilities Act. And there are devices which are used specifically for those who are hearing impaired. And this is something that we may want to look into, is those devices that can be used for those people that we can use for here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Burke?
Thank you, Mayor. Just before the council moves to deliberate, there were two quick clarifications. First is, while the items that are before you tonight are specific to the city council, there are many provisions of SB 707 that do in fact apply to other boards and commissions. They're just not part of what we're here to talk about tonight. Some of them have already been implemented by staff, such as delivery of a copy of the Brown Act and the revised provisions. So I just wanted to make that point clear. And then two, in terms of if there's a meeting disruption, the proposed policy before you does outline particular findings that can be made where if after, and I'm not going to pull up the specific terms, but you can make findings to continue the meeting following a disruption once you've gone through that list. So I just wanted to make those 2 points clear.
Are you saying that if Zoom is down and you've worked on it for an hour with best efforts, that we would be able to make some kind of findings to continue the meeting?
That's correct, and that's detailed in the policy that's applied here, and that's consistent with the updated provisions of the Brown Act. But you do have to go through that effort. You do have to go through the time where you have a period of time where you try to restore service, you document the efforts that you've taken to do so, and then you make the findings on the record to proceed.
Right, and one thing that wasn't brought up is we generally, I mean, there was in the past, we haven't really used it much, but once we get to 10 o'clock at night to basically see if we want to continue or meet the next day, and since we have a couple of folks who work that are on the council, we probably have to continue to the next day in the evening hours or after 5. Is that so? We probably should also be thinking about that. Okay. And Ms. Navarro, did you want to respond to anything that's been brought up?
Certainly. We do have the decorum policy in place, and I would assume that would also apply for telephonic participants joining us via Zoom. We did it last time. There was a speaker that bombarded us with vulgarity, for lack of a better term, and we warned that speaker, and that speaker still did not bring himself into compliance, and we ended up just cutting that speaker short by enforcing a decorum policy. We will work with our IT department on many possible solutions for backups, for redundancies in case there is a disruption in services. As we did during COVID, there was one instance I remember where we had some issues with Zoom, but it was quickly fixed. We adjourned, we fixed it, and we were able to continue the meeting. So we will definitely work with our IT department, and I am in agreement with Mr. Knott that this would only be concerning disruptions on our end. If somebody is running Windows 95 or AOL online, and they can't stream the meeting, then that is not a fault of the city. That's on the user's end, so to speak. So we would definitely work with our IT department on that. And we always make reasonable accommodations for individuals with disabilities to meet compliance with ADA. And we have worked with our IT department on helping those individuals, especially those with hearing disabilities, and we do provide devices for them so they can participate in here. I do know that if an individual is hard of hearing, there are devices at home that they can use free from the telephone company, and in one case, we did provide a person with those resources and telling them where to get information from Pacific Bell at the time. If there aren't any more questions, we'll be more than happy to answer them.
Right, and I do want to say that Sandag uses the same format. That is, it is telephonic and no video. In fact, video sometimes ends up crashing the system for some reason. And also, I remember that some of the folks would be dark because they would not be able to turn their video on for various reasons. So this is really telephonic. It'll make it all very, very easy. The one thing that Sandag also does is at the beginning of the meeting, the clerk of the board gives out directions and instructions regarding the translation as well as decorum. So we might want to come up with that for you to basically start us off at the meetings.
And I think I did that during COVID. I had
Yes.
an introduction before we started the meeting.
Yes.
And the reason why we chose telephonic was I had a conversation with a senior citizen that had no access to computers or the internet.
Right.
So she was able to participate via Zoom by calling in. And so that's why we chose the telephonic version, is to be more equitable to our public.
All right. Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. So just for the way that it would work for public hearings, folks would not have to sign up in advance. So you would look, how would that work for digital or telephonic comments?
Honorable council members, Deputy Mayor Joyce, during COVID, what we did was I maintained the city clerk email up on my screen here, and as people wanted to speak, they either emailed in and we signed them up, or they'd use the raised hand function on Zoom. I believe there is I haven't used Zoom telephonically, but I believe there's a press 1 if you want to raise your hand, and it raises your hand on our end. So for special, I'm thinking about senior citizens as well, and those that are not technologically literate, how it would work on their end to make sure that they're accessing the city council meeting, which is the whole nature of SB 707, is to invite those that don't normally participate in council meetings to participate. So we will be accepting public speakers for the public hearing items only, past whatever deadline the council sets up. And using Zoom, they would press 1 for a raise hand function, and we would acknowledge them on the Zoom call if they wanted to speak on a public hearing item.
And that would just be going until the mayor closes the public hearing on it?
Yeah, until the mayor always says, is there anybody else that wishes to speak? Please stand up or raise your hand on Zoom. If we don't see anybody standing up or raising their hand on Zoom, I'll let the mayor know that we don't have any members on Zoom wishing to speak, and the mayor could close the public hearing item.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I understand that it would be challenging if between the options. I think that it would be my preference to start with keeping it signing up until the item is called, but obviously I'm open to hearing from my colleagues. I just think that really does allow for the space for folks to attend the meeting. I know that we start with proclamations at the beginning. It can be confusing sometimes, so I think that space is important. But I understand that with this double duty system, that there may be more support is needed for clerk staff. I know you guys can handle it. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, you know, as we add demands, as the state adds demands, then maybe there is more support that is required. So that would just be my preference. I understand that it's up, and I think people will get used to it if it changes, but that would be my preference. And then, but I think that the two things that I'd want to weigh in on, that as we're changing these updates in order to bring more folks in, I really do think we should lean into the translation. We have a significant number of folks in our city who speak Spanish only. It was identified as the target here in 707. And I think the translation of staff reports would be an important step, because right now it's translation of the agenda pages only, so it just tells you what's on the agenda, but they can't open and look at the rest of the staff reports in Spanish anywhere. So I'd like us to know how we could achieve that, so that access to what we're actually talking about up here is translated. And then I will once again raise my hand and say that we should have live translation at every one of our meetings in Spanish. And it's done in other cities. There are multiple models to do it. It can be done also via the Zoom function. I think we have a responsibility to do it, and I think we should be offering that for our council meetings. So that if it were up to me, those would be added to the motion.
Councilmember Weiss?
Yeah, I want to thank Mr. Navarro and his staff for putting this together. I'm struggling with kind of what you just brought up about having live translation in Spanish. I mean, I don't mind just starting with moving forward, but I will say I agree with a deadline based on staff's recommendations, after the presentations and proclamations, let's shut it off right before consent calendar and and eliminate the group presentations per your recommendation. So my motion is going to be to go with staff's recommendations and see how that starts, and then we'll, option one. And if we need to make changes, I'm sure we're going to be in a position to make changes.
Thank you. Councilmember Robinson?
Thank you. I'll second that motion. Yeah, I'm not in favor necessarily of live translation. I think the costs are great. And I think there's a number of, there's also a responsibility on the receiver's part of information. They can use a number of translation documents on their end as well. And AI, a number of different things are available today. It's not as difficult as it used to be, but I'll just second the motion is made.
Thank you. Councilmember Figueroa?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I mean, I think getting this information to our community so they can understand and digest it and understand what's happening in the city, I think is very important. Is it possible for us to look at a program that we would feel comfortable with legally to translate the reports to start off with? Maybe is there anything that it doesn't put more strain on staff, but some sort of platform or technology that would make it an easy, provide a feasible, doesn't stretch the capacity of our staff team to translate something, but it's, is there anything possible that we can look into that we would feel comfortable as far as a city making sure that the proper translation is being made, or even look into a software where we can put the reports in there and then it just translate it for us with given all the AI technology improvements?
So basically, we have the website that you can choose one of several languages, but the attachments, which would be the PDFs, we do not currently have a translation online with the city.
Right.
But I think that there are translations that you can use on your computer to translate those documents. I don't.
Yeah, it is.
Mr. Borrego, can you respond to the question, to that question?
Yeah, I'm going to defer to the clerk's office because I think they may have researched this before, but if not, we can certainly report back with options. I'm not sure if I'm personally prepared to address that tonight.
We currently switched over to Legistar, which is a kind of a non-PDF version just for this purposes of live translation and using the Google Translation services. But we do have a dedicated kiosk if people want to post their own translations, but we could definitely research more into what the council's pleasure is on translating staff reports using some kind of software program. I can't talk about the accuracy of it, but it would be a start to try to find a freeware program to translate the PDFs into any language that anybody could have.
Right, because I know that online, if you go on a computer and you have a certain language, you are capable of translating it into English, say Japanese to English, which I've had to work with. But in terms of the city clerk's office having that available. If you could look into it, I think that's what Councilmember Figueroa is asking.
We'll work with IT on that because they may have some solutions that we may not be aware of that would be cost-effective for the city.
And I think that would be best. As far as, again, not cost-effective for the city, doesn't stretch our staff where they're each individually, anyone that submits a report has to translate it, but having a uniform software that can be plugged in and we can put that out with the reports. I mean, the technology's there, I'm sure it's there. It's just having our IT team research it and see how we can make our reports in Spanish, I think would be, make them more accessible to our community.
And part of that is also working with our CRC commission on outreach for historically underrepresented populations to also include them in the city council meetings and all the going-ons that we have here.
And we could get them out to the resource centers, the agendas.
Correct. And we do want to have that language translation kiosk where anybody could translate anything and post it on that kiosk.
Great, thank you. Deputy Mayor Joyce?
Thank you. So I think, exploring technology to translate the staff reports would be really important. I think it's a great idea. It'd be a good start to have that and have it posted. I just want to really briefly talk about the live translation piece. By not having that, we have a whole segment of our city that's cut off from these proceedings, essentially. And you can't, and you may think, well, we rarely, if ever, get that issue, but who's going to come in when it's not in Spanish already? Like, who's going to come in and say, they're not going to come, they won't be here. So we're not going to know that it's a problem until we start offering it to see that folks will actually take it up. So I'd like to make a motion to amend the original motion, and that would include for a report to come back on options for live translation and options for staff report translation at a soonish date, whatever the city clerk thinks is the most reasonable date to come back. And that would be so that we can have a real conversation about, what it would mean to do this. I think it's good that we're good stewards of money. I just think I get a little frustrated when I hear this conversation talk about folks who are most cut out of this process. So I'd just like to hear the options.
Okay, and there may be options with respect to just doing it via a phone, kind of since we do have microphones here, but to look into it without really necessarily committing to any one way.
If it's the council's desire, my staff and I will do our research on what other cities do. We'll talk to other clerks. We've been talking to Vista about their live translation services, but we have access to other clerks across the state, and we could see what they're doing for live translation services, and then we could come back with options for the council.
So I'm thinking that I want to say for the vast majority of our meetings, we will not need a translator, but there will be times when we may need one, and we will know at the beginning of the meeting if this motion passes. We'll know if anyone needs help with the translation because they'll be having to sign up by the consent calendar. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. So online, it's already accessible, right, that way. We're just talking about live, and so if you can come up with some, looking into that.
And I also believe part of the amendment was the translation of the staff reports as well, correct?
I think we did that separately
Correct.
via
that was
Councilmember Figueroa.
Okay. Yeah, and then we'll look into solutions for that as well.
Okay.
And maybe we could bring that forward, looking at possible live translation solutions.
And I think Jimmy knows Spanish or can speak Spanish. I can. I don't think we're a total loss here on the dais. I think we all can figure that out. If, for example, we didn't have a translator, generally people come in with someone to help them. Yeah, that's, and we invite that, right? We've invited it. We've given them a little more time for the translation. So I think we can get through this. Do we need to amend the motion to have our city clerk look into that? Yeah, he did.
I second.
And Jimmy, sorry.
Okay, but it's about looking into, it's not, we're not talking implementing, just what I've,
It's to bring, from what I understand from the motion, is to bring back at a later date solutions for live translations.
Possible options.
Possible options for live translations at city council.
Right. Okay. Councilmember Robinson?
Thank you. Okay, so I just want to be very clear that if we vote yes on this substitute motion.
This amendment
This amendment.
to the motion.
The amended motion, thank you. We are not approving live translation at this time.
That's correct.
So,
That's my understanding.
so this motion is to have the clerk bring back options for live translation of meetings. Yeah,
Which doesn't mean that it's going to be implemented. It just means to bring back.
correct. We'd have to still
options.
pass one of the options that the clerk brings back for that to happen.
Or an option to not have it.
Correct. I mean, that could also happen.
Okay.
Councilmember Weiss? No? Councilmember Figueroa?
For our city clerk, do you know how many North County cities right now use live translation?
The only one I can think of right now is Vista. Vista does have a live translation, and it's usually on the screen. And it's done through kind of like an AI system where it takes what we're saying in real time and translates it into Spanish. From our discussion with the clerk's office in Vista, they pay, I believe, by the hour. And the costs are going to be roughly around $1,000 per meeting, depending on how the length of the meeting is. But we're looking into some of the information that they provided us. And so when we come back, that will be part of that information.
And what about the rest of the county?
San Marcos, to my knowledge, does not do it. I don't think Carlsbad or Escondido provides live translations. The only one that we found is Vista.
Which has a comparable Spanish-speaking community to us as well, so.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so there is an amendment to the main motion. We're not voting on the main motion yet. We're going to first take up the amendment. The amendment is to direct the city clerk to look into options, possible options for live translations, bring that to the council at a later date. And the motion does not intend to implement. All right, there's a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Okay, now the main motion, and there was additional direction having to do with, what was it was the documents.
Translating the staff reports into
So
Spanish.
that's directions. Do we need a motion for that? Are we all in agreement that that's okay for, okay, so we're not going to do it by motion. We're just going to give direction to, it's general direction to staff regarding that. So there is a motion on the second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you. It is 6 o'clock, time certain for our public hearing items. We do have 2 of them. I'm going to go ahead and get started with those and come back to the general items after we complete the public hearings. So item number 29, staff recommends City Council, number 1, conduct the public hearing under the requirements of Tax and Equity Fiscal Responsibility Act, that's TEFRA, and the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 as amended. And number 2, adopt a resolution approving the issuance of qualified 501c3 bonds as defined in Section 145 of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 by CSCDA for the benefit of Bedford Sonterra Apartments, LLC, who is the borrower, in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $105 million for the purpose of financing or refinancing the acquisition, rehabilitation, improvement, and equipping, of Sonterra multifamily rental housing located at 3851 Sherborne Drive within the City of Oceanside California. I'm going to go ahead and open this public hearing and request disclosures from council members regarding constituent contacts and/or correspondence.
For this specific item, staff only, but we did have a item back in December on it. So
Yes.
Same.
Same here.
None.
Staff and constituents.
Thank you. Mr. Navarro, do we have any correspondence and/or petitions?
We don't have any correspondence or petition on this item.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and begin with a presentation by Salvador Roman, Senior Management Analyst, and thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. As mentioned, my name is Salvador Roman, Senior Management Analyst with Housing and Neighborhood Services Department. Today's item is another TEFRA public hearing with staff recommendation to approve the resolution for the Centera Apartments located at the 3851 Sherburne Drive. Staff is recommending that City Council conduct a public hearing, which we're doing now, and adopt the resolution approving the proposed tax-exempt bonds issuance. Again, I'll be quick, but I'll include some of the important details. This is a required item as per the TEFRA requirements, and because this project is located under the City of Oceanside, it falls under our jurisdiction, and therefore we're having a public hearing item for approval today. One important thing to note, as Councilmember Wise did mention, we did have a public hearing on this site specifically before, back in December 17th. And because of the finance issues, the project fell through. So we have a new bond issuer as well as a new developer who is taking this project forward before you today. So as I mentioned earlier, the current TEFRA item is California Statewide Communities Development Authority. I'm going to just refer to them as CSCDA short, and Bedford Centera Apartments LLC as developer. So a little bit about the project. Centera Apartments is approximately an existing 240-unit multifamily rental housing property consisting of 2-bedroom units. Under the proposed financial structure, at least 75% of the units must be occupied at or below 75% of the AMI, and the project must meet the federal minimum set-aside requirements, including at least 20% units at 50% AMI or 40% of the units at 60% AMI. The financing would support the acquisition, rehab, improvement, and equipping the property. Regarding the existing tenants, units would be rehabbed gradually and released to income-qualified households, so no tenant relocation is anticipated. As I mentioned before, the proposed bonds would be issued by the California State Community Development Authority, or CSCDA, in the amount not to exceed $105 million through the tax-exempt bonds. The bonds are solely responsibility of the borrower. The city is not issuing the bonds, and this action does not create a city debt or financial obligation or legal liability. So all that being said, at this time, staff is recommending that City Council approve the resolution of the issuance of bonds by CSCDA for the benefit of Bedford Centera Apartments LLC solely for the purpose of satisfying the TEFRA IRS requirement and applicable California law. And at this time, that concludes my presentation, and happy to
Answer any questions. Thank you. Do we have any, excuse me, this is a public hearing. This is a time to hear from the public on this very specific issue, and you did not have to sign up to address the council on this item. We will take up, however, anyone that did go ahead and sign up first. Do we have anyone?
Yes, we do. We have one speaker, Jimmy Knott.
Mr. Knott?
Mayor, council members, Jimmy Knott, 127 Cherry Lane. I want to remind the city council, at our last meeting, we had a presentation that pointed out to you that for extreme low-income housing, Oceanside has successfully developed 0% accommodation. 0%. I think this is an opportunity to begin correcting that. If you read the report, it did not include this group. I was amazed at that. Also, transition housing was sort of questionable. Today, over at the senior center for lunch, I was interrupted a couple of times by individuals who have been on our city's voucher system for over 8 years. And they're still waiting. If something can be done, please help these people. Please consider that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before us is the is actually action requested regarding a Tax and Equity Fiscal Responsibility Act, the TEFRA. And I do want to say that that additional level for very, very low was just recently added. So that's why we have 0 at this point. But anyway, anyone else wishing to address the council on this item? Please rise, approach the podium, and state your name, and then you have up to 3 minutes. I see no one rising. I'm going to go ahead and close this portion of the public hearing and go to the council. First to staff, do you have any other, anything else that you'd like to add?
Just wanted to let you also know that the sponsor is, a representative of the sponsor is here this evening, so if you have any project-related questions, that he would be available to answer those questions as well.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Figueroa?
Thank you. I have a few questions for staff and then for the sponsor. Yeah. So just to clarify, the and/or for at least 20% of units must be occupied by households with incomes at or below 50% of area median income, or 40% of units must be occupied by households with incomes at or below 60%. That is included within the 75% total, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then what does it look like for those that currently live at Centera Apartments if this were to pass and they are not within the 75% threshold, or they are not within the 40% threshold, but between the 40 and the, or I apologize, between the 40% and the 80 and the 75%, but there's no more units available to them. Let's say a resident's put in that situation. Are they going to be evicted? What happens to that resident?
Sure, that's a great question. The bonds that are before you this evening are a little bit different than our tax credit multifamily bond financing deals. These are 501c3 or nonprofit bonds. They provide a level of flexibility that is different from the traditional tax credit program. So for the rehab units, for the income, everything's done as folks move in and out, so it's transitioned over time. There's not a requirement that at day one, 75% of the residents need to be income qualified, and so that qualification would occur as folks move in and out of the development. Same with the rehab work as well.
And since it's under the 501c3 bonds, is there a designated time? I believe that in December, we were looking at 15 years. Is that similar to what we're looking at now?
Yes, so the financing structure on this deal is the same. They're still the same 501c3 bonds governed by IRS regulations. The only difference in this structure is that we have a new sponsor and a new bond issuer.
So let's say that they don't get to the 75% until like year 6. How does that work out? Since
So honestly, I'm going to ask if the sponsor can answer that
Yeah, for sure.
question.
Yeah.
I don't believe that there is a penalty for that, not like in our traditional tax credit program. Under the tax credit program, you don't get your tax credits until you have full occupancy and meet all the rules. But with it moving over time, there are different deadlines there.
Yeah.
Do you mind just restating the question? Sorry. And
Sure.
Hi, everyone. My name is Noah.
Hi, pleasure.
Move the mic closer to you so that we can all hear you. Thanks.
So getting to the 75% threshold, what if you don't get there until year 5 or 6? How does that impact you?
So just to go back a second, so the way this is going to work is we plan to have 40% of the units at 60% AMI, and the remainder of the units will be at 80% AMI or lower. Like she mentioned, we will not be kicking anyone out of their apartment as natural turnover takes place. Any tenant that currently lives at the asset that qualifies will qualify into the program. And as natural turnover takes place, the way it's going to work is we will reserve those units after the tenant that does not qualify moves out for a qualified tenant. So there's no time limit to that as long as we're reserving units for a qualified tenant. We plan to.
All right, thank you. And what is the public outreach as far as from your end? What is that going to look like? Not public outreach, but the outreach to the folks inside Centera Apartments.
Sure. Once we acquire the asset, we will send around a notice to all of the tenants to income qualify those who do qualify for the program, and then find out at that point which tenants do not qualify. But beyond that, there won't be anything that changes the way the property is run or interferes with the residences.
So let's say I'm a tenant that doesn't qualify, and my lease ends in 2-3 months. Will I be able to renew my lease?
Of course.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So at our last hearing on the same issue, it was my understanding, perhaps our understanding, that this would be done in phases. So it's not going to be like you have anybody go out in mass and then you do all the units and then, you might not be able to bring everybody back. You're going to do this in phases so no one is really out for very long, right?
That is correct. No one will be displaced. No one is going to have to leave at all. We will qualify the tenants that already qualify that live in the asset, and those who do not will be able to stay as long as they like, and when they leave, we will backfill that unit with a qualified tenant.
Okay. Is this, the lease is year to year, right?
Correct.
Okay. So if they want to continue living there, say the year is up and they're looking at another year, they would still be able to stay there with the new lease until they want to move out, and then you need to have a qualified person there?
Correct. We do not plan to displace any tenants.
Great. I know you've said it several times. I just want to make it crystal clear to everybody that this is not,
of course,
getting rid of anybody or evicting anybody, so to speak.
And Mayor and
Yes.
council members, if I might add, at the last hearing, staff did commit to working with the sponsor, and although the sponsor is different this time, we're still committing to working with the sponsor in providing information and working with tenants with whether they're frequently asked questions. The questions you're asking tonight are obviously going to be some of the questions that the existing tenants will have. So we've committed to making that information known and working with tenants and responding to those inquiries as they occur.
And in Spanish too, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
How will rents be set in this environment? So let's say you have somebody that's in now that would qualify under the 60% threshold. I would assume they're paying more rent than they should be right now, because most of us are. So how does that impact them moving forward?
Yeah, their rent will be brought down
So that
to
30
the
are they at
60%
30%?
level, correct? So this is for incomes and rents that correlate for the county at that level.
Okay, and then their household would pay 30%? Is it still set at the 30% of their monthly income?
Yes, so it would follow the state requirements or the federal requirements of 30% of AMI. And so the 60% AMI level for San Diego County or this region, and 30% of that is the gross rent.
Okay, awesome. And I'm sorry, the last question, I apologize. CSCDA will be doing the monitoring of this following it, so will they be getting a report on this is how many,
Sure, so tonight's action is really only to hear the public hearing and the resolution. The city as an entity does not have a stake in the project in terms of we are not issuing the bonds, we're not providing a loan, we're merely holding the public hearing. So it would be the bond issuer that would be monitoring and receiving all of those reports.
Okay. I would just flag for my colleagues that we should probably find a way to make sure we're getting the information about this from all properties that are doing this type of offering in our city so that we have a full understanding of our market. Thank you.
Councilmember Weiss?
Yeah, I just want to thank staff and what you're doing, and I'm just going to move approval of staff recommendation.
Great, thank you. There's a motion and a second. Councilmember Figueroa?
Just lastly, I spent a lot of my childhood in these apartments. I didn't live there, but I spent a lot of my childhood in these apartments. And I highly suggest that when that information does go out to the tenants living there, that it is in English and Spanish, because a large majority of the residents there are Spanish-speaking families. And again, this is affordable housing is something that we greatly need in the city, and to bring support to the families there. It's 240 units. It's the largest apartment complex in the Tri-City community. It's probably I think it's one of the largest apartment complexes in the entire city of Oceanside. So to be able to provide support to potentially 200 families plus, because I would assume that a lot of the families there are going to qualify, the families already living there. So yeah, I just think this is great for our city.
Yes, thank you. And last comments from me. I appreciate that you're partnering with us in terms of working with the residents, and because usually once we do our part, then we never hear from the affordable housing developer. They never ask about our own list, do we have people that would qualify, that kind of a thing. So we actually appreciate your working with our housing department very much.
Yeah, absolutely. We're here to partner with the city and all of you to make sure that we are providing affordable housing the way it should be, and that includes, communicating with you, and we're open to taking any voucher residents you might have and placing them in the property or whatever it may be.
Great, well, don't often hear that, Leilani. Yeah, fantastic. Okay, there's a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you very much. Good luck. Item number 30. Staff recommends City Council adopt a resolution approving historic permit H25-5 to designate the property located at 405 South Horn Street as a locally significant historic resource. I'd like to go ahead and open this public hearing and request disclosures from council members regarding constituent contacts and/or correspondence.
Staff only.
Staff report only.
No contact.
None.
No contact.
Thank you. Mr. Navarro, do we have any correspondence and/or petitions?
We have not received any correspondence or petition on this item.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and do a presentation by Lydia Grego, Planner 1.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members. I'm Lydia Grego with the Planning Division, and I'm here this evening to present a request for an historic permit for the property located at 405 South Horn Street. Staff recommends the City Council adopt a resolution approving historic permit H25-00005 to designate the property located at 405 South Horn Street as a locally significant historic resource. The property is a quarter-acre site located in the Town Site Neighborhood Planning Area at the southwest corner of Missouri Avenue and South Horn Street. It has a land use designation of single-family detached residential and a zoning designation of single-family residential. This site was originally recorded in 1887 as part of Bryan's Addition and is surrounded by single-family homes. An historical site may be designated as such if it meets the criteria outlined in Chapter 14A, the Historic Preservation Ordinance, as shown on this slide. The single-family home was constructed in 1928 in the Mission Revival style and features defining characteristics such as parapet walls and arcade-style entryways. The property is affiliated with two significant Oceanside residents. First, Harold Beck, who was the creator and owner of the Oceanside Blade Tribune, which became a leading source of local news and civic engagement during a period of rapid growth. Second, Ted Holden, who served on the city council and assumed the role of mayor in 1942, a pivotal period of time for the city during World War II. Per the Cultural Resources Report, modifications have been made to the rear of the home, but do not have an impact on the property's historic integrity. Staff reviewed the project for conformance with Chapter 14A and determined it is eligible for a local historic designation because the project is associated with a historic person or persons, and the architecture represents a significant design or construction. A historic designation will provide conservation and protection of the historically significant property. Any proposed alteration or demolition that would alter the historic resource would need to come before you for approval. On February 17th, the project was brought before the Oceanside Historic Preservation Advisory Commission. The commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of the historic permit. Once again, here is staff's recommendation for the proposed project. Thank you for your time. The applicants are in attendance this evening and we are available.
Could you stand? Thank you very much. Thank you. I love Oceanside history, and I so appreciate your moving forward on this. Thank you. This is a public hearing. This is a time to hear from the public, and if you so wish to speak, actually, did you want to speak? Asking the owners to speak if they wish to speak. You don't have to. Okay. If you could come up to the podium and state your name. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Marty Smith. My wife Heidi. I recently found, in addition to the colorful history of our old Spanish revival, the original builder, Charles Recchi is his name, and he built more of a semi-custom Spanish revival homes, mid-20s, I think through the mid-30s. He'd also built the one catty corner from our house too, on Horn Street, 401 Horn Street. But interesting to see also, he was very active, civic stuff, political stuff, and he built, at the time, the new Oceanside Hospital in 1938.
On Horn, or no? It must have
No,
been
I don't have the address, but a 1938 built.
Okay. Well, thank you. Didn't mean to do that. Yeah, I was born at Oceanside Community Hospital on Horn Street, so don't know if that's the same one. Anyone else wishing to address the council on this item? I believe I saw Ms. Bachman. Yes.
Hello, Mayor and council members. Excuse me. This is the street that my kids grew up on. So they spent their childhood on their big wheels going up and down the parkway on the sidewalk past all these houses. So I want to say, first off, these are great people. We love having them in our neighborhood. They have done a great job with the house. I knew Keith and Dorothy Martin who lived there, and they were in their 70s, I think, and they would talk about those kids over on Clementine. Well, it turned out the kids were the younger people who were freshmen at Oceanside High when they were seniors. And my husband and I were in our 30s, and we were like, who are these kids? So everything's relative. Very interesting to read about the history of it. I also want to comment that they have done such a great job. They put all of their parking off the alley. They did not even attempt to put anything off the street. This is 1, 2, 3, 4 houses away from the guy who took our parkway. So exact same situation. They did it right. So we couldn't be happier about this addition to our neighborhood and having this caliber of people in our neighborhood. Also, I want to bring up that historic was starting to kind of get a bad word because of density issues, but with the smart and sustainable corridor plan, we can have it both ways. We can save historic homes, we can have these fantastic places, and we can have density. And they, in fact, added density. So I just think this is great. This is a shining example of how to do it right. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wanting to address the council on this? I see no one else rising. So I'm going to go ahead and close this portion of the public hearing. Come back to the council. I'm going to go ahead and move adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you, congratulations, and thank you for preserving Oceanside's history. Thank you. All right, going back to the general items, item number 26. Staff and the Parks and Rec Commission recommend the City Council approve naming Parkside 1 at El Corazon as Kiyam or Sepul Park, and the skate park at John Landis Community Park, yeah, which one is it, right? As Shane Hidalgo Skate Park, based on the application submitted in accordance with Council Policy 100-55. And we're gonna have a presentation by a Parks and Rec Director, Manuel Gonzalez.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. My name is Manuel Gonzalez. I'm Director of Parks and Recreation, and I'll be talking about the naming of Parkside 1 as well as the John Landis Skate Park. Staff and the Parks and Recreation Commission recommend that the City Council approve naming Parkside 1 at El Corazon either Kiyam or Sepul Park, and the skate spot at John Landis Community Park as Shane Hidalgo Skate Park, based on the applications that were submitted in accordance with Council Policy 100-55. On April 9th, 2025, City Council identified Parkside 1 at El Corazon and the skate spot at John Landis Community Park as eligible for renaming. The park, I made group and individual applications available to the public with a deadline to submit of June 1st of 2025. The department received 1 nomination for the skate spot at John Landis Community Park and 3 nominations for Parkside 1 at El Corazon. We reviewed all of the nominations, and they are consistent with the requirements set forth in Council Policy 100-55. Staff presented the applications and justifications to the Parks and Recreation Commission. Shane Hidalgo was born in Oceanside and was a professional skater. He worked for the Parks and Recreation Department at Joe Balderrama, where he served as a mentor to kids in the East Side neighborhood. He skated for nonprofit organizations such as Urban Skate for Kids and Bridge to Skate. Shane represented several skate shops and businesses, including Gravity Skateboards, which designed the Shane Hidalgo skateboard. Shane passed away on May 20th, 2012, while on his way to participate in a skate benefit in support of an orphanage in Mexico. The El Corazon site is on the traditional territory of the Liceño people and the Parks and Recreation Commission acknowledge the importance of honoring the history of the land where El Corazon is located. Qiam means family, and Supal means one in the Luiseño language. During a public hearing on September 30th of 2025, the Parks and Recreation Commission voted 8-0 to recommend that City Council name the skate spot at John Landis Shane Hidalgo Skate Park, and the Parks and Recreation Commission considered 3 nominations and voted 8-0 to recommend that the City Council name Park Site 1 at El Corazon either Qiam or Supal Park. The park monuments and signage at Park Site 1 are factored in the construction costs of the park at El Corazon, and there will be no additional costs associated with naming that park. There will be an undetermined cost to install a plaque at the skate spot at John Landis Community Park. Staff recommends the City Council take action referred to on this slide, and this concludes my presentation. I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Do we have any requests to speak from the public?
We have 6 requests to speak.
Okay. Go ahead and get started with Zena Pow Pow. Yay. Great to see you.
I'm at Zena Pow Pow. Help you do this? Yeah. This is what I wanted to,
Zena is Shane's aunt.
yeah, I'm saying that. And
Okay.
tomorrow, did I do right?
Yes.
Oh, well, thank you.
There we
Thank you
go.
so much. Tomorrow is his birthday, and this would be the best birthday gift.
Pull the mic down to you.
Oh, testing.
Yes.
Tomorrow's his birthday, and this would be like the best birthday that he could have. He was a hard worker. His best friend is sitting back here, Travis, and his father and his sister and his friends, Veronica, and his cousin, Mia, and her little girl. And he helped a lot of people, a lot of kids that were very, very poor in East LA and Tijuana and everything, and try to help kids to get off the streets. And I just wanted to say something real short and brief. Just I pray you guys, I hope that you guys will approve of him. He is well deserving of this, and it's been way overlooked. But there's something here that I just want to say. That he was in an interview, and it just stuck with my mind, and it said, "Be the change you want in your life." And I thought that was very, very touching, helpful, and I just love my Shane, that's all. Thank you, okay?
Thank you, Zena. Thank you. Larry Hidalgo. Dad. Speak on the mic, okay?
Larry?
So we can all hear you, Larry.
We need to get you on the microphone so we could record you.
Hello, my name is Larry Hidalgo. I'm Shane's dad. This is a skateboard that they designed for my son.
There's one at, what is the breakfast place in South O?
Right off Cassidy Street and Coast Highway.
Beach Break, yes.
Yeah.
It's there too.
He signed a thing to eat there with a picture of him, and I gave him one of these skateboards. That's all I gotta say. Thanks.
All right.
This is hard.
Thank you, Larry. Emma Hidalgo.
Hello, everybody. My name is Emma Hidalgo. I'm Shane Hidalgo's youngest sister, out of 3. I just first of all wanted to say thank you all for giving us this beautiful opportunity for my brother and to honor his name. I wanted to say that when Shane died when I was about 6 years old. So even though I had a short amount of time with him compared to others, he left such a great impact on my life. And he truthfully was a light in every room that he went into. And not only did he impact my life and is the reason why I am the person I am today, he impacted many others, like as my aunt and father said. But I hope that you guys are able to rename John Landis Park into Shane Hidalgo's skate park, so he could impact other people's lives when they search up his name. And thank you.
Thank you very much. Kellen Sue.
Good evening, Council. I just wanted to speak about Park Site 1 naming. The reason the Parks and Rec, I know I'm not supposed to speak as a commissioner, but one of those was the reason the Parks and Rec Commission felt moving forward was that we really loved the idea of a name that represented all of Oceanside rather than just a specific segment. That this was something that was we all had in common, was that the land that we all live in. So that was the reasoning behind approving those, and just whichever one is chosen tonight, just that they have that they represent something that means something to all of us. And I also just want to speak to my experience getting to hear so much from the Hidalgo family about their love for their son and just the depths of their love and their commitment. They have been through this process just for years. I've gotten to hear from them a number of times, and just wanting to have something that really represents their son or their loved one and his passion and his commitment to the neighborhood and the community has just been really moving. So I just wanted to speak on both of those and encourage you both.
Thank you. And before you leave, Kellen Sue, before you leave the microphone.
Yeah, I never left.
I think we're all curious as to which one seemed to be, for Parkside one, which one seemed to be the most supported?
Favored. Yeah, I don't know that in my experience with the community that I heard one. I do think that something to take into consideration is how it's pronounced and how easy it is, because I think that's just something that I would consider. So people seem more ready to attempt Supul than they do Yam. I think they feel more like, I have no idea what to do with that. So that would be what I've experienced.
Supul Park then seemed to be the one, Supul. Okay, thank you. Travis Tylands. Teelands.
Good evening. My name is Travis Teelands, and you know, I've been in front of you all before, and we're just excited to actually, you know, maybe we get this thing to come to fruition. But just want to say that, you know, as I've gone through my life the last, it's been like 14 years now since that tragic day he died. You know, he's just been a great inspiration for me. Keep trudging forward when things get negative and things get tough. And it doesn't matter what kind of situation you're in, just keep your head up and stay positive and lend a helping hand to your neighbor and care about others. Before I forget, his Aunt Zena wanted me to mention that he had a showing in all of these magazines. He was a up and coming, very talented athlete, and he was one of the most likable personalities you could ever meet out of a person, and it showed in the community after he had died. You've never seen the community in Oceanside show up in support for someone quite like you did for Shane, and it was very inspirational to see that. You know, in a couple lifetimes, I could never know that many people or build relationships with that many people, and he did it in a quarter of a lifetime. And so we really appreciate you guys considering this and letting this really take shape. I would like to, you know, work with you guys and reestablish Shane Hidalgo annual skate contest for a free contest for the kids of the community. I did that for a few years afterwards, And then I would really like to bring that back and offer something, another community event that, benefits the youth.
You were his best friend, and you were there when he was doing a lot of the work, right, that he was doing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It was great. We were going to, doing charity events from Mexico to, Watts in Los Angeles. So he was getting, our vehicle was full of clothes and skateboards and stuff we were taking to, orphanages down there. And he was just really good at motivating people to look at the bigger picture. And he had the support of major companies just loading us up with product, with free clothes, with free, to push the sport of skateboarding, because it's one of the few sports that you don't need to be rich to do or be really good at.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Joan Bachman.
Hello, Mayor and Commission and council members. I just wanted to mention that Friends of El Corazon did consult with tribal leadership. Also, we did put it out on our Facebook page, Help Name Park 1. We did promote that, but as you can see, people didn't come up with that many names, although we did consult with them, and that's why Friends of El Corazon submitted the names. I also want to point out that grammar review for Supal, if you do pick that one, may mean one, where there might be a word that means first, and so we will need to have a grammar review. In working with Buena Vista Audubon, working pretty closely with the Rincon Band, we've learned that we should pay for those services and not just ask tribal members to constantly be answering a million questions. So we will pay for that if it is needed for that word. So I just wanted to point that out. And yeah, tribal members, Diana Caldwell, Mel, Roberta, we're just thrilled that these names are being considered. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, that's it for the public. Councilman, going back to the council, excuse me, before I do, Mr. Gonzalez, did you want to add anything else? Manny, did you want to add anything else?
We did consult with some tribal leaders with respect to the name Supal, and the information we got was that they were comfortable with
Either one.
Either one.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Figueroa.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to thank the Hidalgo family for being here today. Larry, I know it can be very difficult to come up here and speak, and I've heard you speak at the Parks and Recs Commission as well. And as someone that grew up going to John Landis Park, it would be an absolute honor to have the skate park named after Shane. And I think even just thinking about how we can even enhance, hearing his sister speak about others, hearing about what Shane did and how he gave back. I think if we can even work with Oceanside Historical Society to see if we can get his story on there, maybe have a QR code if someone goes and skate. They scan that QR code, and there's a landing page on the Oceanside Historical Society where his story is told, because I think that would be very powerful to our community. I was only a couple of years older than Shane. I saw that he went to Lincoln Middle School. I went to Lincoln, so we were probably there together. I didn't know him, or probably just can't remember now that it's 20-something years ago, but or more, right? Almost 30. But it's just an honor. I know that there's been a desire to have a park named after him for quite some time, and I know that you guys have been here a lot. And so as someone that was born and raised in Tri-City and considers John Landis Park as my family neighborhood community park, I just want to say it would be an absolute honor to have the skate park named after him, especially after it's been revitalized. And anything I can to support city staff and the family to do an annual skate event there for the youth, I think that would be huge as well. And I'm all for that. So just thank you all for being here. And yeah, thank you so much. Yeah. Yeah. And I know tomorrow would have been his birthday. So, happy birthday to the family. So. Yeah. Oh, and I would like to motion to move forward with staff's recommendation.
Okay, which one did you go? It sounds like Supal Park is the one?
Yeah, I would go with the pool park as well.
So you're making the motion?
Yeah, it's the pool park, and then move forward with naming the skate park at John Landis
Right,
Park as
okay.
Shane Hidalgo Park, skate park.
I'm going to go ahead and second that. Deputy Mayor Joyce.
You said it so well. Thanks for being here. I won't go into it. I know it's been a long road. I think my preference would be Kiam for the El Corazon site, but obviously it's up to the majority. So I just put that in there and step back.
Councilmember Weiss.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'm supportive of doing something in honor of Shane. And I'll be supporting this, but my issue is naming individual elements within parks. Because of where do we draw the line? So we got the skate park. Do we start naming the ball fields? Do we start naming the tennis courts? So I think at some point we need to have a conversation that, where do we draw the line? So I will be supporting this one, but, and I'll raise the same issue on the next item.
Thank you, and I think that it is good to have a conversation on that. I think so. But on this one, I think that it's hard to, because I know that we have another skate park planned for El Corazon, but that could be another 5 or so years. And the revitalization of John Landis in terms of that skate park, and it went from just wooden structures that were not really, they were on their way out, to something really fantastic that really was reflective of the way Shane skated. And I want to say that there are a lot of videos online. If you were to Google Shane Hidalgo, you would see him and in interviews and talking about, you can see the passion in him and helping kids. And that's something that is very rare. All right, no other speakers, so there is a motion and a second. Any other conversations about the name? Because no? Okay. All right, please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you and congratulations. Do we have a date that we would be doing that approximately, Manny?
We'll work with the family to identify an appropriate date to celebrate the renaming.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, next item is item number 27. Staff recommends, and I think this is the one that you would probably want to talk about. Staff recommends City Council designate the Brook Street Swim Center, Phase 2A Trail at El Corazon, and the Sensory Garden at El Corazon as facilities for which it will accept applications for naming per City Council Policy 100-55, waive the investigation and hearing requirements in Council Policy 155, and designates Cesar Chavez Park for renaming, and waive specified requirements in Council Policy 155 to expedite the naming and renaming process for Cesar Chavez Park. And we have Amanda Gonzalez, our Parks and Rec Director.
Honorable Mayor and Council, again, I'll be speaking about the designation of park and recreation facilities for naming and renaming. So staff recommends that the City Council designate the Brook Street Swim Center, Phase 2A Trail at El Corazon, and the Sensory Garden at El Corazon as facilities for which we will accept applications for naming of based on City Council Policy 100-55. We also ask that you waive the hearing requirements in Council Policy 155 and designate Cesar Chavez for renaming and waive specified requirements in the Council Policy to expedite the renaming process for Cesar Chavez Park. The Parks and Recreation Department has received requests to identify specific facilities to be included in the process. The first is that the city is nearing completion of construction of the Phase 2A trails at El Corazon, and a new name is needed for the trail. The second is that after his passing, the family of Ray Duncan requested that the city name a park facility after the former lifeguard chief who started his career in 1961 as a senior lifeguard at the Brook Street Swim Center and retired as a harbor and beaches manager after 48 years with the City of Oceanside. They specifically identified the Brook Street Swim Center. The third is that the city collaborated with the Friends of El Corazon and North Coast Church to convert an area outside of the El Corazon Senior Center into a sensory garden with walking paths, benches, and native plants. The Friends of El Corazon have expressed an interest in naming this space. Given the allegations and reporting that have surfaced regarding transgressions committed by Cesar Chavez, staff recommends that the City Council consider designating the Cesar Chavez Park for renaming. The monument sign bearing his name has been removed from the park. On May 21st of 2003, City Council adopted Council Policy 100-55, which provides a timeline, procedures, and priority categories for the naming of facilities. The timeline states that in April of each year, the City Council must first designate facilities for which they will consider applications for renaming. If City Council designates parks and recreation facilities for renaming, they will be made available to the public with a deadline of June 1st. The Parks and Recreation Department presents applications and staff recommendations to the Parks and Recreation Commission at a public hearing with 30 days notice provided to the public. The Parks and Recreation Commission then recommends no more than 3 names to the City Council, which makes the final selection. The policy states that the public hearing should occur in September, and the City Council should make its final selections thereafter. Staff recommends that City Council waive certain policy requirements to expedite the renaming process for Cesar Chavez Park. Staff recommends that the public hearing be held during the regularly scheduled Parks and Recreation Committee meeting on July 14th, and staff anticipates that the Parks and Recreation Commission's recommendations can be brought forward to City Council sometime in August. The other parks would follow the timeline established in the policy and would be presented to the Parks and Recreation Commission in September and would come to City Council thereafter. In order to expedite the process and designate Cesar Chavez Park for renaming, staff recommends that the City Council waive the requirements to conduct a public hearing to determine that the name is inappropriate as required by Council Policy 100-55 and instead designate Cesar Chavez for renaming this evening. Staff recommends that the City Council also waive the established timeline in Council Policy 100-55 to allow for an expedited process to rename Cesar Chavez Park. So there's no fiscal impact at this time. However, should the City Council decide to rename the parks and recreation facilities, there will be a cost to install new signage at each site. Staff recommends that City Council take action referenced on this slide, and this concludes my presentation. I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any requests to speak from the public?
Yes, we do. We have 4 registered speakers on this item. And our first speaker is Kathy Duncan, to be followed by Troy Duncan.
Right, Kathy Duncan.
Mayor Sanchez and the council members. I've come here to introduce myself. I'm Kathy Duncan. I was married to Ray Duncan for 51 years. During all that time, almost all that time, he was a City of Oceanside employee. He began his tenure as an employee with at the Brook Street Pool. I can just attest that he was a dedicated employee. He was a dedicated community person, having graduated from Oceanside High School. Our kids were raised here. Each of them graduated from schools in Oceanside. And there have been many, many times that we have been in public places and people have come up and they have said, "Are you Ray Duncan? You taught me to swim decades ago." So Ray's had a very big impact, not only in that way, but throughout his career in, just making Oceanside a better place. And I just wanted to introduce myself and say I'm glad that you're making this consideration, and I hope that you will find him a worthy person to accept that, and we would be honored as a family if this came about. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Troy Duncan?
Mayor, City Council, and Mr. Gonzalez from Parks and Rec, thank you so much for the request to rename Brook Street Swim Center. I'm hoping that the application gets approved. Like my mom said, we're looking at finding a way to remember his legacy. My dad grew up here in Oceanside. He started working for the city as a 16-year-old lifeguard in 1961, graduated from Oceanside High School the year after. And within a half a decade or so, he started running the lifeguard program for Brook Street and Marshall Street swim centers. He worked down at the beach, lifeguarding that entire year, or that entire career. And he's put in 48 years of service for this city. And he recently passed away in February. And I think this would be a great opportunity to remember his legacy, his name, and not only who he was, but what he did for this city, from projects related to the swim centers, to the sand restoration projects down at the beach, to having the Oceanside annual Labor Day Pier Swim, which he helped start so many years ago and now has, I think it's in its 97th year of swimming. So I think if you look at what he's done for this city and what us and our family and the people that continue to work here, I'm sure some of you have worked with him before in the past. My cousin, she runs the aquatics program right now, and she's been with the city for 20 years. Myself, I was working here as a lifeguard for 15 years. And you think about what swimming means to this community, what he's done for the thousands of people that he's taught swimming lessons to, the hundreds and hundreds that he's rescued, you know, the countless lives that he's changed over the decades. This would be a great honor. So thank you very much.
Thank you. When did he retire?
He retired in 2009 after 48 years of service.
Yeah, I was thinking 2010, so it was 2009.
Yeah,
Thank you.
there. Thank you.
Thank you. Kellen Sue?
Good evening. I just wanted to ask that you guys would consider changing the naming policy that the city has. We have so many parks that are named after individuals. Sounds like an amazing individual, but we just have so many parks named after individuals. And as we're looking at this situation with the Cesar Chavez Park, that most of our parks will not ever be named after someone who's investigated by the New York Times. But if there was, like how that works, just the divisive nature of that within our own communities that are, these are shared spaces that should be named after values that represent the entirety of the city. And the other thing that I would just like to express is that it puts commissioners in such an uncomfortable position to judge someone's deceased and whether they are up to the standard of the city, and judging their life. And as someone that is sitting there, that you want to automatically say yes because someone is sharing about someone that they love so much. So it's uncomfortable to say, like, no, your person doesn't quite make the cut. So to look at the naming policy and how that is handled, and moving away from naming things after specific people, but rather the values that that person had. So instead of naming it Jimmy Figueroa Park, it would be named like the Tri-City Park because Jimmy Figueroa cares so much about the Tri-City area. So naming things in that way instead of after specific people, and that's something that maybe could benefit the entire community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Joan Bachman?
I'm going to come over here. So we, Friends of El Corazon, came up with the idea and designed what we used as a working title, the Noshun Lovik Art and Sensory Garden. So the vision was to create there was this empty space next to the senior center. It had 9 trees in it, and no one had ever set foot in it, not once. And so we designed 3 trails that are very different trails. It's a small space, but you get a real different experience. put boulders in there, so the center trail is kind of a rapids. We were joking about having wheelchair races through there. And our art committee with Linda Kellis wanted to work on a sensory experience. So there are 2 rocks that we hope to get started soon. One will have flute playing from Faustino, who's one of our local flute players. Another one will be a story read by Mel Vernon. And so, and the plants are in there. It is February, or when so this gives you a sense of what the garden is like. Down in the 2 corners, there's a toyon tree that was had red berries all over it. The other side has an elderberry tree that will be coming up. It's in the middle of that space there. That is our native morning glory, not the purple one, that's invasive, but the pink one. And then you see the boulder trail that goes through. It also is designed to go from the highlands up by the arena down to Loma Alta Creek. So it has a watershed implication. On the other side is monkey flower. We have red and yellow blooming right now. The little plant, there is milkweed for our monarchs. We have 6 of those, and we had caterpillars last year, as well as Vigura, which is a type of native sunflower. So I just wanted to tell you what that is. That was our working title, and we very much wanted to go with that. Also, Friends of El Corazon did oppose naming a street after a person on El Corazon, and we still feel the same way. We would like things named for the place, and also there will be 9 parks inside the park, so we will have 9 different names. And as you recall, the patio, the Paula, whatever it is, and the front wave and all that got named, and we didn't get a penny from that. So yes, many things can be named, and hopefully someday we can also get some of that revenue. But in the meantime, thank you for naming the first park, and hopefully that will be a pattern. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it for the public comment period. So back to the council, and I appreciate Kellen Sue's comments. I do. I think that we take up what we have before us, but I would like to see a direction to staff given on the policy. I wouldn't be able to remember the sensory park name. It's kind of long. And it's at El Corazon, so I guess we could still call it Sensory Garden with a name that I will never be able to remember. But I know we also already named a senior center a name that is in the Payam Kawicham language, and I don't remember that name either. Jimmy remembers. I was going to ask you if you remembered. Yeah, I don't think we've used it ever in any of our documents. So let's have a conversation about this. First, we do have something very specific to discuss, and then I would like for us to consider giving direction to staff with respect to future after these. So, Councilmember Robinson?
Thanks, Mayor. And I think specific, and I don't know if we can just take this as a separate item and be done with it, because I think we'll all agree, is that, and I'd make a motion that we do rename the swim center for Chief Ray Duncan. I don't think it needs a lot of discussion.
Okay, so let's just say you support that, you're ready to vote on that. Could you say something about the other 2 things that we're talking about? Phase 2A trail, El Corazon. I guess we do have a tradition, I guess. We have a trail named after actually my high school teacher. Trying to remember his name now.
Can't name it after him.
Yeah, I can't remember his name now, but he was my science teacher, and I was really surprised that, wow, look, he was here for that long, and then he left. So it's really cool that I got to see my science teacher's, name, but maybe Ken Layton remembers his name. No?
If I may,
Anyway.
Mayor, just to, if I understood it right, though, on the Phase 2 trail, we're putting that out for others to suggest
Right.
names.
Yeah, no, this is to designate these for, to accept applications, right? That's what we're doing today. And then also, I would like to have a discussion about giving direction to staff about future, like changes to our current policy.
I'm fine with that, but,
So,
okay.
but you are supportive of including Brook Street Pool for renaming.
Yes, absolutely. And I thought it had already been recommended no?
The actual name is not here yet. That'll be coming to us later.
Yes, Honorable Mayor and Council members, this is a point of clarification.
Yeah.
Tonight's action is actually just to allow us to make these sites eligible for renaming and accept applications from the public, and then follow the process that Mr. Gonzalez laid out earlier in terms of the timing of bringing something back with some recommendations. But this is just creating a list of eligibility.
And that's why I was saying, we have this very specific, and staff is recommending that we accept the applications for naming these 3 sites.
Okay,
So what we're being asked is, number one, do we want these 3 sites to be included for park renaming, or renaming? And then there is a process, this will come back to us with respect to recommendations from Parks and Rec based on the applications they receive. We do know that there is one application already in for Ray Duncan.
Okay, that's my confusion then.
Okay.
So if I may, I would just say, or ask this question then, to move this along, can we open these all up for naming, but we're not obligated to accept any of the names that come before us, right? So we
Right.
really, the decision is to be made later.
Right, correct.
and
So your motion, for example, would be what to move staff's recommendation, which is to accept applications for naming these 3 plus, actually it's 4 to
Never
include
had
El
words put in
Corazon.
my mouth any better than that, thank you. Yes. I'll
To
move
include
that.
Cesar Chavez Park, or former Cesar Chavez Park. I think the sign is already down. So that's your motion to move staff's recommendation. All right. And Deputy Mayor Joyce.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and second that. Deputy Mayor Joyce?
Awesome. Okay. So I'll go down the list because there's a couple of things, and these are all big decisions, so I appreciate it. Appreciate everybody being willing to have this conversation. I do have some concerns about renaming Brook Street. It's been integral to communities that needed access to a pool for a long time. The community had to fight really hard to keep it. When we do this process, is keeping a name part of the options, or is once we designate it, it's going to be changed?
And I appreciate your comments, because I'll always know it as Brooks Street Pool, because that's where I learned to swim in the 60s, just giving away. So I don't know if we could say Ray Duncan Swim Center at Brook Street, something that would include kind of, because I think historically, I went to OHS, and I know that, I grew up here, and OHS alum, and we all know it as Brooks Street, but certainly everyone also know Ray Duncan. So, that's something that will get public comment on, because that's actually not before us right now.
Well, I'm asking about the process. So I don't want to designate it to change if keeping the name as Brook Street is not going to be one of the options. And so I'm not ready to make that call tonight. So that's what I'm asking about the process.
Yes, Mr. Gonzalez?
Deputy Mayor, so the process would be that we would make the site available for nominations. We would vet those nominations, bring them to the commission. They would either put forward recommendations or not, but they can bring 3 forward, and then it would be at the discretion of the city council whether to move forward with that renaming. So you do have the discretion to keep the name when it comes back to city council.
Okay, so, all right. I know, it's also, like, it is hard because I don't want to pit the wonderful legacy of somebody who dedicated so much to our city over, neighborhoods that would really be fighting hard to keep the name. So it's difficult decision to make because I don't want to set up a fight that we don't need to have. So I'll put that out and then I guess hear from my colleagues on whether or not to keep that in the list or not this time around. I would ask, I know, here's the curveball. I would ask if my colleagues would consider adding the Country Club Senior Center to this list, in that it is kind of a confusing name and doesn't seem to really hold a whole lot of value, in my opinion. I may be missing something because I know I don't know all the history of it, but I also find it's challenging to find, because if you're searching for it on any kind of search device, you either get a country club or you get senior center, and sometimes you get put on to the El Corazon Senior Center. So yeah, I think by having a name that's distinctive to that space, it would be great. I don't have a name in mind. I don't have a dog in the fight, but I think we can come up with something better than its current name. So I would ask if the motion would be willing to put that in the motion. And then if you could just, can you go over the process that is being requested for Cesar Chavez Park? If you could just outline that a little bit more clearly so I can understand what's being proposed.
Sure. So we're not asking for any changes in terms of the nominations for renaming. That process would be consistent with the current policy. Nominations would be due on June 1st. What we're asking is that instead of taking the nominations to the Parks and Recreation Commission in September, that we bring them to the commission in July, which would allow us to come back to City Council in a meeting we would anticipate in August, as opposed to sometime in October or thereafter.
And is the reason because it currently bears the other name that we don't want it to we want to make it faster turnaround, or what? I guess I'm asking the main reason for that.
Correct. So, Deputy Mayor, there are a number of federal, state, and local jurisdictions that are moving quickly to address facilities with that name.
Okay. So just to this process in general, this park is in a neighborhood that we even kind of referenced earlier tonight with language access issues. When we conduct community meetings in Crown Heights, they are primarily in Spanish. I think we need to give special consideration on how we're going to actually engage the community in this conversation. So I would like to see our neighborhood services team be required to conduct at least 2 meetings in the neighborhood to get the neighborhood feedback, because I think we could get 1,000 names from across the city, but my priority would be the folks who live in that neighborhood. It's because it's not a park that draws people in across the city. It's a tiny little park, but it's really special to the neighborhood. So I would want to do what we need to do to make sure that they have the biggest and most salient voice in that conversation. And if that means it takes a little bit longer, then I'm okay with that too. I think the most important thing is to make sure they get a voice in that. So I guess I'll open it up to hear from my colleagues what they think about those.
Okay, and if I may, Councilmember Figueroa, with respect to Cesar Chavez, I actually personally was devastated when I heard, or when I read the New York Times story. I have to say that my folks were farm workers. At 18, that I started volunteering for the United Farm Workers. It was a movement. I never met Cesar Chavez, so I was inspired by the organizers that I did meet, and I volunteered on the picket line. We did an East Coast mobilization. I remember taking the train from my college in Providence to DC, and ended up sleeping over at a church. And there were a lot of people there. It was, we were inches from other people, and for me, it was a significant leadership at a very specific time. And of course, it moved into the Chicano movement and then the civil rights movement. So for me, he was symbolic of that. He and Dolores Huerta. And it was just, I had so many emotions when I heard that, and I am not questioning at all the testimony from the women. I'm accepting that. So I want to thank staff for working so fast in taking the name down. I do. And I do feel that very strongly that I was here when we decided the name for this pocket park. Yes, it is one block. That's all it is. But it means a lot to the community. And so when the community decided they wanted to name it after Cesar Chavez, it was to uplift, to based on the Latino community there. And they were looking for a leadership within to give them hope. We don't have that many Latino leaders. You know, I don't even know if you can even count it on one finger. Latinos, Mexicanos, Mexican Americans who we name a day after, or a street after, or park after. For this community, I agree with the deputy mayor that the initial intent was to hear from the community and that process, which was followed initially. It was, I think, in the early 2000s when we did the pocket park. So I would want to hear from the community on this one. I know the process that we have is citywide, but I think that this needs to be symbolic for that community. I was thinking maybe La Corona Park, which is Crown Heights, Crown Park, which would actually be named for the neighborhood, or Crown Heights Park, La Corona Park, something that would be related to this neighborhood. So that is what I would like to see. Councilmember Figueroa?
Mayor, I'll just start my comments really quick in regards to Brook Street Pool. I think some of the comments that were made, this is such a difficult position to be in, to acknowledge someone that has given so much to our city, and acknowledge the service that they've provided, and the legacy that they left behind is something that we definitely want to honor. But it is difficult given the fact that Brook Street means so much to so many people in Oceanside. It means so much to so many people on the east side in Crown Heights, and all throughout the city. It's iconic. And so it is difficult to think about it not being called Brook Street Pool anymore. However, at the same time, we want to acknowledge the service of Chief Ray Duncan. And so I think if it's possible to even consider naming a program within Parks and Rec after Chief Ray Duncan, maybe a swim program or something within Brook Street Pool would be my preference, or us figuring out a way that we can still acknowledge Chief Ray Duncan, but just the sentimental value and the iconic value that Brook Street means to so many people. And we all saw it 4 or 5 years ago when the pool potentially closed, the amount of people that packed this building to preserve and protect Brook Street Pool. And so many people came and shared their personal memories and connection to Brook Street. And so those are just my comments on that. In regards to Cesar Chavez Park, I was devastated. I can't even, like, it's going to be one of those things I'm going to remember exactly where I was when the news came out, and I even reached out to the mayor because prior to being on council, we've had many discussions about just our Latino leaders and historical figures in our community, and there are very few, as the mayor mentioned, especially, going decades back, of folks that we learn from about in our Latino community, Latinx community, of folks that just, there's not a lot of folks that look like us that are in our history books. And for Cesar Chavez to be, for this news to come out, it was just very hard for a lot of people in our community. And so I do appreciate staff moving so quickly, given the allegations and the seriousness of the allegations, and respecting and acknowledging what was being shared by the victims, and making sure that what we want in that space is to resemble hope, dignity, respect, love, and it's just important that that community has that. I think when it comes to the renaming of that park, me specifically, how do I say this? What's most important to me is, and what I will put the most weight on, is what the folks in that neighborhood are interested in renaming that park. Given the historical context of Center Street, Crown Heights, whatever you want to call it, it's one of our historically underserved communities in Oceanside. And for me, I'm only really interested into hearing what that community has to say when it comes to renaming this pocket park in their neighborhood. And so I think whatever that process is, to make sure that they're included in this process for renaming Cesar Chavez Park, I think that that's what I will support. So those are just my comments.
Councilmember Weiss?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to support asking staff to accept applications, because we're not here to name the parks, right? To accept applications for the Brook Street Swim Center, the Phase 2 trail at El Corazon, and the Cesar Chavez Park. I am not going to be supporting naming the sensory garden at the senior center specifically. I get, and I've seen it, and I'm comfortable with putting a sign up that says sensory garden, with thanks to the Friends of El Corazon and Moody's and the other entities and organizations that were on Ms. Bachman's list, but I will not be supporting naming the sensory garden something specific.
In light of my colleagues' comments, I'd like to withdraw my second of the motion, and I want to hear from Deputy Mayor. But I think that what I'm hearing is that we want to honor Ray Duncan, but we also want to figure out the best way of doing it in light of kind of the legacy of the Brook Street pool. Ray probably worked more years outside of Brook Street and saving all the lives on the beach. And maybe we just need to think about this a little more. But we definitely want to honor Ray, I think is what I'm hearing from the dais. And if we can think of maybe having maybe the Parks and Rec be part of that kind of dialogue and figuring out how best this is not something that fits in this box, right? We have this box called Policy 100 whatever 55, and I think that we need to think a little bit outside of the box. And one policy doesn't always fit every situation, right? So I'm also hearing Councilmember Weiss that we shouldn't be naming every little element of a park. And maybe we need to have that dialogue and figure out how we can do this, accomplish what we want to do. I heard Country Club Senior Center, Country Club Lane Senior Center. I mean, we've known that for like ever as well. But maybe just having, he's opening it up. Maybe we need to have that discussion, hear from the seniors, for example, that actually go there. And I'm going to include myself there. I don't know, Councilmember Robinson, if you're going to include yourself in that category. But, and I don't like categories either. That's the other thing, is that, so I think we're having a very good discussion on this, and that I think we need to relook at the policy. I know staff is following the policy because we said, hey, this is what we want. And so, when something comes up like this, maybe we should review it and revise it. So I'm trying to think of what would be, maybe staff can suggest what motion we can make to encompass all of that. I know the motion, I know what we're looking at here is, let's just put this out for applications, but Councilmember Robinson?
Thank you. Maybe I can, at least for expediency, and I don't think that we can, and I'll rely on the attorney here to tell me if I'm right or wrong, that we can, because of the way this is presented, that we can include the Country Club Senior Center.
Right.
So we can't even put that in here.
That, not right now. It had to be named.
No, the agenda was very specific as to the 3 sites that were here to be discussed publicly. So the policy has a process for it, but if we were to add additional facilities that were not listed in the agenda, I think it would deprive the public of the opportunity to have known that those were on the agenda to be discussed.
Yeah, I took your comments, Deputy Mayor, as let's consider this in the future.
So may I suggest, Mayor, if you would entertain this?
Point of information before you do that real quick, because I have a point of information about the ruling that was just done.
Could we just hear him out and then you can do your point? Let's go ahead.
Since there's only 3 bullets, what if we took each one as a separate motion, vote, and then that gives staff very clear direction, and we all know how we feel about each one of those 3 items, to get, to put it up for naming.
Okay, so to bifurcate, but I guess my comments had to do with the Brook Street poll and also honoring Ray Duncan.
Well, that'll have to come back to us, I guess.
Yeah. But it could be a different way that we can honor him, or I suggested having both names there, right? Just out of, just top of my head. Because I know that Brook Street pool is been around for 50 years or so. And that's how we've known it.
Yeah.
But
no, personally, I like that idea. The Ray Duncan Swim Center at Brook Street would be fine with me, but I don't know that we can do that tonight, because I made the same mistake. To be honest with you, I wish staff hadn't put that in the staff report now, because it is a little confusing. I would have much preferred, now that I have a better understanding, is that it just said, that, hey, these 3 things need to be put up, we'd have been done with it, and then we could deal with it later. We spent a lot of time talking, trying to fix something that we can't fix tonight. So that's all. I just think if you would agree, we can make 3 separate motions, we can vote on them, and we're done with it. Staff knows what they need to do.
I think it would be 4 separate motions. It would be Brooks, the trail, the garden, and Cesar Chavez. Pocket Park.
Right, okay. So, I'm happy to.
So we can bifurcate. I think the issue is I think that where I think we're going to get a little more, I should say, more difficulty is with Brook Street. But Deputy Mayor Joyce?
Yeah, just a point of information. Can you explain to me how the policy precludes us from naming a place tonight that would be considered for renaming?
It was not on the agenda.
Well, it says, the presentation said we name the places in April and then take the public feedback after that.
Oh, that would be, once we identify tonight, the staff's recommendation were specific named. It didn't say, council, pick for us. They did specific names. So that is the notice that was provided to the public. It would violate the Brown Act if we added other parks. I guess I should ask our city attorney to respond to this.
That would be our recommendation, is that, I understand what the title of the item was, but as listed in the agenda, it was staff recommends these specific locations: Brook Street, Phase 2 Trail, El Corazon, Sensory Garden, El Corazon, and Cesar Chavez Park. And now, that's not to say pursuant to the policy that we could not come back at another meeting in April, for which you have, and notice, discussion of additional facilities. But for tonight, that would not be part of the agendized item.
And on something like that, because the timelines are so fast, for me, they're fast, I wouldn't want it to be included right now, because that's something that I think maybe even the senior commission would be a better place to have that discussion.
So I'd like to add that if we're going to do 4 different motions, I'd like to add it as the 5th, and it would just be that it comes back at our next meeting, and it wouldn't get renamed until September.
I wouldn't entertain that. That would be out of order.
Why would it be out of order?
Because it's not properly noticed.
Well, the notice of it would be for the next meeting. There's no noticing requirements of these coming to council, unless the city attorney has a different opinion.
I think within the context of this item, we're having generalized discussions about the applicability of the policy. If council's direction was to bring back a discussion for revision of the policy at a future date, and to bring back as an agendized item consideration of additional facilities, we could do that. But we're not going to, add them to the list tonight.
It can't be designated tonight. That I understand. But we could say, bring this to us at our April 22nd meeting to have that conversation properly.
Correct.
And it would still fall within the timeline, that's all. Okay.
And I'm actually asking for more time so that we can have the senior commission actually address. I think it's more properly addressed by seniors.
But they'd have the time to do that.
I don't think, I think that's pretty quick turnaround. But anyway, so there is a request to bifurcate. Anybody else wanted to talk? There's a request to bifurcate. We'll go ahead and do that. I'll start with
I apologize, I still have
Phase 2A Trail at El Corazon. Yes, Deputy Mayor.
So just so for clarity, we're doing Brooks Trail, the Sensory Garden, Chavez, and then are we also doing a motion to bring back the renaming policies?
Yes.
Okay, so renaming policies is also going back? Okay, I'm just trying to track it all so I don't lose track. And when we get to a motion, we can speak to that motion individually?
Yes.
Okay.
But hopefully we've already done that. Okay. You want to take a break? Actually, I do. Let's take a 5-minute break. Thanks. Okay, we're going to go ahead and we're going to bifurcate each one of these in the order that they are listed on the staff report and well, actually on the agenda. First one is Brook Street Swim Center. Is there a motion to do the Brook Street Swim Center for renaming?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. I would actually like to see, because I understand the Ray Duncan's family's here, I would like to give staff time to come up with some other ideas about it. So it wouldn't be a straight motion for Brook Street Swim Center. But what are any other comments about that before we vote on this? Because there's a motion and a second. There's a motion and a second that was just made to rename Brook Street Pool, to accept applications for renaming Brook Street Pool. So, Councilmember Figueroa?
Yeah, I would just say for me, I'm not going to support that, but I would support having staff, and I know we're not making a motion, but I'm just saying, I'll look at other options because I definitely think I think everyone here wants to acknowledge Chief Ray Duncan and the service he's provided to the city. But I won't be in support of renaming Brook Street Pool, but definitely in support of figuring out what else can be out there for
Okay.
renaming purposes.
Deputy Mayor Joyce.
I agree, and just in line with our policies, it has nothing to do with the tremendous legacy of Chief Duncan.
Okay. And I agree with that. So I guess what I'm going to suggest is if this motion doesn't go through, that we give direction to staff for Ray Duncan. Okay, there's a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion fails 2-3. Sanchez, Figueroa, Joyce, no.
I would like to give direction to staff for options on how to honor Ray Duncan. Is there a second to that? Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Direction to staff to come back with a way to honor Ray Duncan. All right, let's vote. There's a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Okay, thank you. Phase 2 trail at El Corazon. Is there a motion to name, because it's a new one, Phase 2A trail at El Corazon? Is there a motion to name or rename, I don't know?
Accept applications.
Or accept applications. Accept applications for naming. Sorry about that. That's pretty important words, right? For naming the Phase 2A trail at El Corazon.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, there's a motion. Deputy Mayor Joyce?
I would love to second that motion. It has some beautiful views. Not that it's open yet, anybody, but it's gorgeous.
All right. Okay, so there's a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Okay, is there a motion for sensory garden at El Corazon? I'm not.
I'll move it forward in accordance with our current policies.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, there's a motion second. Please vote.
Motion fails 2-3. Sanchez, Robinson, Weiss, no.
Okay. The next motion has to do with Cesar Chavez Park. This one includes directions to basically fast track it. That's correct?
Honorable Mayor, yes, we're asking that you waive the timeline and allow us to bring the item to council faster than the council policy dictates, as well as waiving the requirement for a public hearing and designate it for renaming this evening.
Okay, so, and we had discussion on the dais that we would like to have the residents at Crown Heights get feedback from the residents of Crown Heights at least 2 meetings. So that
Honorable
would be
Mayor,
part of the
yeah,
motion?
we will commit to having a robust outreach process to solicit nominations that reflect the desires of that community.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Joyce?
I think the best way to make this work in the way that I think we're thinking of it is for neighborhood services to be partnering with Parks and Rec on this one and to maybe not go the same route every other park does. I would love it if we got our recommendation directly from those community meetings instead of doing the multiple steps of going through Parks and Rec and everything else. So I don't know if it's possible to waive our processes so that we make sure that that's the way that the park name comes forward. I don't know, I'm looking to city attorney.
I'm trying to think of how it was done originally. I think it was through neighborhood services. It was through the resource center and
So I recommend that
housing.
because neighborhood services currently has a very close relationship with, and a trusted relationship with the community. And I'm not saying Parks and Rec doesn't, but there is a very close-knit community that uses the resource center and knows those staff members. So it's just a little bit different than other parks. So I'd request that we do that and not set a specific timeline, because I don't know how fast that collaboration will go. I'm happy if it comes back faster, but I also want to make sure, number one, that voice is heard.
Are you saying that it would not go to the Parks and Rec Commission? It would be more going through neighborhood services?
Yes, I would rather it go through neighborhood services and not be like
And
a
then come to-
citywide call for names for this park.
And then come to the council?
Yes,
Okay.
that would be my motion.
That was not in the agenda. We're not looking for a fast tracking here. I think in light of wanting to do it, wanting to honor that neighborhood. So what, I'm going to ask the city attorney for guidance on this.
Yeah, I think the agenda properly encompasses the waiver of the policy and establishing an alternate process. So I think you could, within your discretion tonight, establish an alternate process consistent with the noticing for this item. Because that's specifically what we've said. We're going to waive the policy and establish an expedited alternate process for that park.
Okay, so Deputy Mayor, if you could make the motion to include, to be very specific.
So I would motion to waive our investigation and hearing requirements and provide an alternative process for renaming Cesar Chavez Park to be a collaboration between neighborhood services and Parks and Rec to maximize the local voice on the process.
Okay, without going to the Parks and Rec Commission?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
I would second that.
Okay.
Can I just say something really quick? I want to.
Yes, you're next.
Yeah, I want to acknowledge staff for this because I know that the fast track component is not like staff just trying to, it's staff responding to what's happening and trying to be as just empathetic and intentional about responding to what's happening and provide, urgency to the matter in respect to this community. So I just want to acknowledge staff for even making that consideration to fast track it with the hope of getting a resolution that would uphold the integrity of the community. And I know that was the intent behind that. And so I just want to say thank you to staff, city manager, and Parks and Recs director, team.
And this motion does not intend to do a fast track, right? It's whatever time it's going to take? Okay.
Yeah, and I just want to acknowledge that intent. And so I really appreciate that. And so, but I second and support making sure that the Crown Heights, Center Street communities' voices are heard through this process is the most important thing. So.
Okay, Councilmember Robinson?
Yeah, I'm not going to support this, and I just find this very offensive that a park that is paid for by city taxpayer money, we could do this for every district. I could pick parks in my district and make an argument just like this. I'm fine hearing from the community, and we can put extra weight on that, but to change the thing and not allow other people in this city whose tax dollars who paid just to revise that park a year ago. It wasn't just that community. It was my tax money, everybody in this city's tax money that did it. And you're cutting them out and I'm not going to support it.
Okay, I appreciate your comments, Councilmember Robinson. I do believe it was Housing and Neighborhood Services Funds that actually built that park. It was a pocket park. So, and it was specifically for a purpose to address that neighborhood. But I understand your comments. So there is a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 4-1. Robinson, no.
Thank you. Next is more of a direction to staff, directing staff to revisit the policy in light of the comments that were made here on the dais. Certainly moving forward on what we're doing today, but come back. I don't know how much time it'll be, it will take, but please to revisit the policies and do. City Manager, Mr. Borrego, did you have anything to say on this?
Yeah, I just wanted a point of clarification in terms of whether or not you would want the policy to be reviewed by the Parks and Rec Commission before we bring it back to you.
Yeah.
Because that will affect the timeline. I would think you would, but I just want to confirm that. Okay.
Right. Yes, I don't know that it would impact what we're doing tonight. This would be for future, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And so, yeah, there is no timeline on that.
Okay, we'll get working on it immediately, but I just wanted to make sure that you didn't have an expectation that we would get it back to you ASAP, because I do think it is appropriate to include the input from the Parks and Recreation Commission, especially since Chair Sue is here and brought the issue to light, so.
Right, yes, and the current policy states it's once a year and it names the dates. So I don't think this is a time is of the essence issue. Okay, all right. So Deputy Mayor?
This is for following. I'll move the motion forward.
Okay. Is there a second? I'll go ahead and second it. And this is to revisit the current policy, which is 100-55, to address the issues that were raised here. I think Councilmember Weiss mentioned that we probably shouldn't be naming every little element of a park moving forward, and some other concerns that we've raised tonight. Right, there's a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you.
And then I'd like to make a motion
And then there is, yes, you wanted to make another motion.
to bring back the Country Club Senior Center name for our next meeting as a designate to rename the facility. And it would go through the normal process, which would be a 5-month process to bring the name back.
Okay. There's a motion. Councilmember Figueroa?
I would second. I would say it gets very confusing at times when we're trying to provide direction to community members at times about that location as far as accessibility. Now that we have El Corazon, sometimes folks are like, I'm like, no, not off of Rancho Del Oro. And then I always have to just lean to, it's across the bridge, across the street from the Boys and Girls Club. And so.
Well, and this one is a future one, which is not meeting the current 100-55. So it would be probably considered next year and probably after the new policy.
Can I ask a clarification for that?
So
we can have this discussion when the item is agendized for, if there's majority direction, staff to bring it back.
Considering it, right, okay,
Correct.
so we
Right
can't
now,
give the reasons for
we're a bit far
considering it.
afield on.
Okay, so it'll be just to have that conversation in April, so our next
and
meeting.
can this come, yes, Mr. Borrego?
Yeah, I was going to request that maybe we agenda this for the first meeting in May, only because our staff reports for the next agenda are already well under preparation, and we would really be rushing to put this on the next agenda. I'm assuming it wouldn't necessarily affect the timing of things at the end of the day, But I would suggest that we schedule it for the first meeting in May in order to give us enough time to actually prepare the staff report.
Okay. I mean, I would be okay with it being in May, as long as it doesn't affect the timing, that's fine.
All right, there's a motion and a second to consider the senior center at Country Club Lane Senior Center for renaming. There's a motion, second, please vote. Yeah, it's direction of staff to bring it back.
Motion fails, 2-3, Sanchez, Robinson, Weiss, no.
Thank you. All right, item number 20, I think we're done with item number 27. So we're on to item number 28. Staff recommends City Council introduce an ordinance amending Section 2.1.70 of the Oceanside City Code to adjust the salary for the mayor and members of the City Council in accordance with the provisions of Sections 36516 and 36516.5 of the California Government Code. And we have a presentation by Chelsea Phoebus, our Human Resources Director.
Hey, thank you, Mayor.
And I don't know if everybody will be shocked, but we've not had a raise for 10 years.
That's correct, since 2016. And so I'm here to present to you tonight that staff is recommending that City Council introduce an ordinance to adjust pay for the mayor and city council members in accordance with California Government Code. As the mayor mentioned, salaries have been in effect for just over 9 years. They were effective in 2016, so we're running in on that 10th year now. And currently, council members make $1,932.75 a month. The mayor makes $2,107.91 per month. The California Government Code allows for city council adjustments of up to $2,500 per month. It also allows for annual increases based on inflation. So since 2016, which is the last time we implemented increases, the total allowable increase for council is 45% over the current rate. And that has to do with the, let me see if I can scroll down. There we go. Has to do with the way that the government code is written. And so the proposed adjustment would be effective December 16th, 2016, so, or 2026, so not till the end of this year. But it would move council members up to $2,802.49 monthly, and then for the mayor, $3,056.47 monthly. With this, there would be no change to the CDC or harbor compensation. And then for fiscal impact, it's estimated to be approximately $65,000 annually from the general fund. And these are ongoing costs. And then if approved, staff will include this in the fiscal budget 26-27 recommendations. And then we have a grid for you here. This shows a comparison of some of the other cities throughout the county. And so it shows where we currently stand. So right now we're at number 8, compensation-wise, followed only by San Marcos. And then you can see with the recommended changes, it would move us up to number 4. So just around middle of the pack here. So I think this comparison is important just to see where we land within the county. And with that, short and sweet, staff recommends that City Council introduce an ordinance to adjust the salary for mayor and City Council in accordance with the provisions of the applicable California. I'm happy to take any questions you might.
Thank you very much. Do we have any requests to speak from the public?
Yes, we do. We have 2 speakers on item number 28. Our first speaker is Jimmy Knott, to be followed by Daniel Dominguez.
Mayor, council members, Jimmy Knott, 127 Sherry Lane. We need to sunshine our elected politicians and how much they're paid. Used to be years ago, it was a privilege to serve. And what I mean by that is that you were given basically, maybe your utilities were paid, and most of the time, our elected officials served as gratis as part of their community service. That changed back in the 60s, mainly for almost every community in the state. What happens is that all sorts of other additions have come along, special credit allowances, special credit cards, pay for serving on different elections, boards, committees, and everything. I support giving the council what they do to some of our businesses. As an example, mobile home parks. We limited to them to 75% of the CPI, or whatever your choice is for your salary here. But I want them to be determined upon what our president and other officials on the federal level are calling meritocracy. And I want you to take and justify it by what have each of you done to show you merit these raises. This is an honest, fair question that you can tell the public. And since they would pay your salary, they would be paying this adjusted salary, and I think public deserves that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Daniel Dominguez, and I think that this was left out of the presentation, may or may not come up during his presentation, but our city treasurer he's related to our city treasurer, that's how I'll put it. And I think in the staff report, it indicated that we could do the same thing for the city clerk and city treasurer. Is that correct?
We can, via resolution, increase the pay of the city clerk and the city treasurer, yes.
Right, which have been tied together from the time that I know, 26 years. Mr. Dominguez?
That's correct.
Thank you. Honorable Mayor, City Council members, I'll be real quick. I support this salary increase. I think Oceanside electeds are doing a fantastic job. Looking at the council, though, I see, and I don't want to offend anybody, I see about 60% of the council is from my generation, and 40% is, and I won't guess, but either Gen X or Gen Y. And so there is a generational transition in place or coming about. So the city council works a lot of hours. The younger generation usually have a family to support. They're not retired, having a pension, sitting on the council. And we need to encourage the next generation. We need to attract better, the best of the leadership. And a lot of the younger candidates don't run because they can't afford all the hours they have to take from their job to do the city council. So I support this because, as I said, to attract better people and to support the generational change in the leadership of the city. And Mayor Sanchez, I was going to take the disclaimer that my wife is the city treasurer, and I will say that she did not encourage me to speak or anything, but I will say that all the elected do a fantastic job. When I ran for office, the city clerk was immensely helpful in filling out all the forms. This city runs because all the elected do their job. So with that, as I said, I was going to make this short. That concludes my presentation. Hopefully, the council will include the city treasurer and the city clerk in this salary increase. Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes our speakers.
Thank you. So Deputy Mayor Joyce?
Sure, just a few quick comments. I noticed that Escondido has a full-time mayor, and I just noticed there's some differences in the other cities. I think that it has been a while since we've updated like our structure. I would be supportive of moving to full-time, but I'd want to see that on the ballot. I'd like to ask folks to support that. We're not doing that tonight. We're not talking about that tonight. It's just relevant to what we're talking about. So I'm just throwing it out there. Representing citywide, it takes so much time. Mayor, I know just being your deputy mayor, I know how many things I have to jump into because you are being asked to do 2 things at one time so often. If you're going down to a SANDAG meeting, you might as well clear your entire Friday or Thursday. There are large demands on these meetings. You know, NCTD is the middle of the day, CEA. These are all things that take a lot and are really tough to manage on the part-time side. So I would just say, you know, I wish we could do more on the mayor side so that the mayor was definitely moving more towards a full-time for sure. I would support the council moving that way if the ballot said it would. But before us tonight, I would say that I would like to include in the motion staff's recommendation and bringing up adding the treasurer and the city clerk to it, and making sure that the city clerk pay is actually commensurate with the treasurer, so they have the same pay. Because I know there's some discrepancy between being on the CDC and small craft harbor district. However, we can do that in a legally justifiable way, I think is important, because serving citywide, again, like the mayor, the city clerk serves the whole city, no matter how big it continues to get, and amazing.
Second.
Councilmember Figueroa?
Yeah, just piggybacking, just want to piggyback off of that. And I also support looking at the city treasurer and the city clerk. Both of you do so much. I believe both of you have full-time jobs as well. I think all of us are here. Everyone on the council serves because they care and passionate about the city. As someone that's probably the 40% that you mentioned, it is a huge sacrifice. I work a full-time job. And so even when I was fortunate enough to be elected, I had to find an employer that would work with my new schedule. And it is a lot as far as trying to do the best you can to serve the city, but at the same time having to provide for an 11-year-old, 8-year-old, my wife, and they eat a lot, right? And then there's soccer and there's all this stuff. But I don't want to, I think that we all make this decision. We know what we're stepping into. You know, it is a sacrifice, but at the same time, I don't think anyone that serves or runs to serve is doing it for the money. Obviously, we're doing it because we care for the city. But yeah, as someone that works a full-time job, it is a lot. But I definitely just want to show my support for the city treasurer and the city clerk.
Thank you. Councilmember Robinson? So was that a second? I forgot.
Peter did.
Oh, Peter did. Yes, that's right. Sorry.
Actually, Dan Dominguez changed my mind on how I was going to vote. But I too want to just comment that I think our clerk and our city treasurer definitely need to be included. We all know how hard the clerk, we see him here, he's here in the office, but I don't think it gets noted enough that our treasurer from previous treasurers, and I haven't been through that many, but I think you missed maybe one council meeting, or, she's here listening, adding in, so I think it is appropriate if anybody has any doubt. So I'll support this. I wasn't going to, but I will.
Thank you. Mr. Burke, what do we do?
Great. Just to be clear, so this would be the introduction of an ordinance specific to the city council and direction to staff to bring back at a future meeting a formally agendized item related to the city clerk and treasurer, which we can do by resolution.
Oh, okay. We could do that by resolution, not, we don't need an ordinance for that.
That's correct.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that you can split those. Okay, so we do have a motion and a second. Please vote.
I need the title.
Oh, title of the ordinance. Yes, thank you.
This would be the introduction and first read of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Oceanside, amending Section 2.1.70 of the Oceanside City Code to adjust the salary for the mayor and members of the City Council in accordance with the provisions of Sections 36516 and 36516.5 of the California Government Code.
Thank you. And just for the record, I probably work about 60 hours a week. So, yeah. I think a couple of us do.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Great, thank you. On to the item number 32, advanced written request to reserve time to speak. Mr. Layton, Ken Layton.
Congratulations, Dr. Navarro, on a long overdue raise. You're still getting a fraction of what your counterpart makes in Escondido, less than half, but at least you're getting something extra. Finally, you're getting closer to what you deserve. The UT did an article last month about the purchase of the Hatter building on Mission, and in it they quoted me as somebody who spoke at council meetings a lot. And I started wondering, am I wasting my breath or am I wasting your time? And so I sort of wanted to do an inventory of some of the topics that I've covered and to see if it even matters. And one of them that I came up with was the fact that I was the only one for a couple of years to bring up the fact that the Chamber of Commerce has sort of really morphed into instead of promoting commerce and business, it seemed to care more about raising political money and funding things like even sometimes hit pieces against candidates. And I talked about that for a couple years. And finally, last year, the council finally said you're not going to get free rent in a city office to principally occupy, in my view, as a political action committee deal. And I think that was a huge thing. And people told me we didn't even know they were getting free rent or they were doing all this PAC stuff until you brought it up. So I feel good about that. Another point that shows that it's good to speak in front of the council now and then was for many meetings, I was the only one to speak up about this guy, Victor Roy, who was elected to the city treasurer position. And the media, a few media people asked him, what's your deal? What's your background? And he completely subterfuged. He completely blew it off. And some of us said, we think there's something maybe not right here. And it wasn't until the city spent $41,000 to prove that not only was he, watching porn in the library on city's time, but that he lied about it. And I think that proves that, when you're the only person speaking about something you feel about, that it sometimes works out. On the other hand, there's some issues that I brought up before that I feel have been ignored, and I'll try it again. You never know, it might work. And that is, I've been always told for a while that the Ocean Camp Wave Lagoon was never really going to get built, that it was sort of like a vehicle to get the condos built. And so I wrote out to Darlene Nicandro, who I guess was until recently the Director of Development Services, and I said, so I understand that there's been no communication with the Wave Lagoon people, and she basically, said, well, we're trying to do our best to find out what's going on, and the reality is that nothing's going on. And the point is that in October of 2022, when council members Mayor Sanchez and council member Weiss were on this council, you voted to separate the 92 acres into two separate 46-acre parcels and allow there to be two separate owners. And sure enough, you also agreed to lower the 776 units that were allowed to be built. You said, okay, well, you can build half of them, which is 330 or whatever, and you don't have, and there's no commitment, there's no strings attached about getting the Wave Lagoon built. And I've brought this up before, and I said, will you either of the two people who voted on it, or D2 Representative Rick Robinson, whose district it is in, do any of you care that this whole ocean camp thing seems to be going nowhere, and that sure enough the condos are getting built just like they got built with the other TrueMark? By the way, this is a TrueMark developer project. The other TrueMark project that got built without the commercial element. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, next I'm going to go to item number 33. No, excuse me. Item number, did I skip over it? 31. And that is the city manager update on SB 79. By Wiener.
Honorable Mayor and council members, thank you for this time this evening to provide the City Council and the community with an update on the city's efforts with regards to SB 79. You may recall that I had given a similar presentation back in January with respect to the legislation, introducing you and the community to the legislation in terms of what it entails. And tonight I'm here to give a brief presentation in terms of where things stand and where we see things moving forward down the road here. So just a real quick recap. SB 79, which was authored by Senator Scott Wiener, was signed into law in 2025. The legislation becomes effective on July 1, 2026. And it essentially upzones land in close proximity to major transit stations throughout the state, allowing housing developments of up to 65 to 95 feet, often with the option of ministerial approval, which means by right. And the legislation applies to sites that are currently zoned for residential, commercial, or mixed-use development. Under the legislation, densities can range roughly anywhere from 100 to 120 units to the acre plus density bonuses. Actually, that number is a little bit higher. I'll get to that in a minute. And cities can adopt their own local alternative plans and implementing ordinances which may provide some level of local relief. So this slide here, and I'm going to show you an image on the next slide here, but this slide here shows essentially the two different tiers for transit stops that trigger SB 79. Up until recently, the city was under the impression, based on the language of the legislation, that we only had tier 2 stops, the potential for tier 2 stops, which was generally along the Sprinter lines. However, based on some recent guidance documents that have been released by the State Department of Housing and Community Development, it now looks like they're suggesting that the Oceanside Transit Center may actually fall under a Tier 1 designation. Those designations are not yet official, and I'll get to that in a minute as well, but I wanted to bring that to your attention because that is a change from the last time that I addressed council. So we have prepared some preliminary maps that essentially show the magnitude of impact to our city. And essentially what this map on the screen here illustrates is the city's 7 transit stops, which are all of our train stations, most of which are along the Sprinter line. There's 6 stations there, as you can see on this map here, starting with the Oceanside Boulevard station, moving all the way, or actually the Coast Highway station, moving all the way east to Melrose. So the stations are at essentially at Coast Highway, which again, I'm talking about the Sprinter lines, Coast Highway, Crouch, El Camino Real, Rancho del Oro, College, and Melrose. And then, of course, the large star, which is the northernmost site there along the coast, is the Oceanside Transit Center. And the areas of influence, again, really radiate out from a quarter mile out to a half a mile. So all the properties that are within the radii there have the potential to be impacted, although there are some exceptions that I'll talk about momentarily here. So under the legislation, cities do have the option, a few different options in terms of how SB 79 is managed in the individual communities. Of course, cities have the opportunity to just implement SB 79 as currently written, and therefore the laws as is written on the books would go into effect on July 1, 2026 for those cities who choose not to do anything. A couple of other options that are available and are written into the legislation, and I did speak to this back in January, is cities do have the opportunity to prepare what's called a TOD alternative plan, which would allow the city to shift density from one site to another, provided all build-out numbers or the overall build-out numbers allowed under SB 79 are accommodated. So as an example, the city could choose to come up with an alternate plan and reduce densities that would be allowed in the single-family areas and transfer the higher densities along our commercial corridors, much in line with what is already anticipated under the city's Smart and Sustainable Communities Plan, which is actually a component of the pending general plan update. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we plan on doing there on the next slide as well. Another option that cities can avail themselves to is to provide or develop or approve a local ordinance which allows for a one-year deferral of SB 79, and that's actually a one-year deferral from the time that our next housing element is due, which is in 2031. It would provide a one-year deferral period from that adoption period in 2031, and allows us to also make some additional carve-outs in terms of identifying parcels that are exempt under the legislation. As an example, under the legislation, industrial sites, sites that aren't readily served with sidewalks, sites that have a historic designation, sites that are subject to sea level rise. There's certain exemptions that are built into the legislation. Under that ordinance, we could carve out those sites as well. And in doing so, we would need to at least achieve a 50% density, allowable density under what would otherwise be permitted under the legislation. So we would still have to allow some higher densities, but at a lower rate than what would otherwise be required under the legislation. And there are some exceptions. I'm kind of talking in broad brushes here. I'm not going to get into the individual specifics, but that is an option as well. So in terms of what we're doing at this moment, and I'll continue to provide these public updates as we continue to move forward, but we are continuing our existing mapping exercise to really further refine eligible sites that would be impacted by the legislation and doing our best to identify sites that we are able to exempt. We are most importantly awaiting SANDAG's release of guidance maps. So under the legislation, the MPOs or metropolitan planning organizations are tasked with preparing implementation maps, which serve as the official guidance for the legislation. The map that I showed earlier on the screen is something that we prepared in-house, but SANDAG is actually tasked with releasing the maps, which would be much more precise and presumably be used to provide further guidance. So those maps, once released, and we expect that to happen very soon, will also provide some additional guidance in terms of which properties may or may not be eligible under the legislation. And those maps will also serve as a guide to interpret the legislation with respect to what would be classified as a Tier 1 or a Tier 2 stop. As I mentioned earlier, we don't have official designations yet because the maps from SANDAG have not been released yet, but once they are, they will serve as the official point of guidance for the purposes of determining which stations fall under a Tier 1 or a Tier 2 designation. So we are, as I mentioned in the last presentation back in January, we do intend and have begun working on a TOD alternate plan, again, tearing off the Smart and Sustainable Corridors plan that we're already working on is part of the general plan update, and our goal would be to shift densities to the least impactful sites and neighborhoods that we are able to do as allowed under the legislation. And we are working on that now, and we will continue to work on that to get that on the books. In the meantime, and this is something that I did not discuss at the last meeting, but is something new that I think is something worthy of mentioning, is that we are going to be working on that interim ordinance that I mentioned earlier, which will allow the city to garner some immediate relief by allowing deferment of the full implementation of SB 79, provided that we're able to achieve at least 50% of the allowed density on the properties that are eligible for development. And the goal on that one would be to get that ordinance before you and adopted and in effect before July 1. So we're working very quickly on that, so that come July 1, we will be able to provide some immediate relief and some options for our community. So with that, that brings me to the end of my current update. Again, I do plan on providing further updates in the future, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Thank you. Shall we hear from the public first? Are there any requests to speak on this?
There
from
is.
the
There's
public?
one speaker, Jimmy
And then
Knott.
we have Councilmember Robinson. Mr. Knott?
Mayor, council members, problem with living in Oceanside as long as I have, and also attending as many meetings as I had in different groups, you get perspective. Years ago in the Sprinter line, that the primary goal then was helping the commercial centers and businesses. What happened was that there was political shenanigans that went on. One of them is choice of different stops. You had the Fossat choice, that was property that was chosen by a certain landowner that was basically soliciting our representative at the time over a plaza that needed to be serviced that the public was accessing. What happened was degradation occurred to that plaza and businesses started to fail. And so what happened at that point, that housing started to be built, and this is what's happened. What happened is the traffic levels started to fall and fail, and it's continued to fall and fail. And what's happened to a lot of the people in the area is, as much as the traffic levels has continued down towards a level F, a lot of the people that I've talked with, they tell me the conditions of life to the surrounding communities have fallen as well. To the people that living into those communities are starting to fall and fail. Their conditions are leveling up as well. Their choices, instead of taking and correcting the problem, have been exasperated, and it is horrible in the sense that their views, their existences are not being taken in consideration. You need to take and look at quality of life and traffic, please.
All right, that was it, right?
That concludes our speakers.
I think that what we didn't make really, really crystal clear is these are unfunded mandates that are, this was written into the law, or I should say signed off by the governor after it received X number of votes from the state Senate, state assembly. And there were 15 amendments to this law. and they did one size for all. And I am extremely upset about this. We tried to get in front of the different assembly members. I'm proud to say that our assembly member and our state senators voted no on this. But unfortunately, there was wheeling and dealing, so 15 different times amendments to this law, and then it was signed into law by the governor. So we have at Sandag, and the city manager has been very much a part of this, trying to figure out how to approach this. And Sandag, as the MPO, the city manager just said, is the agency that is coming up with the maps. They haven't done it yet because it does seem like the legislation is not completely matching with the directives from the HCD, which is charged with implementation and also enforcement. And so I want to say that I think that our staff has been really on top, trying to do whatever we can to minimize the impact. I will tell you that Solana Beach, there were 3 tiers. When we started off, we were actually in tier 3, which would have been less impactful. Then we fell off, and I thought, oh, great, it's not going to impact us. We ended up in tier 2. And so in tier 1, Solana Beach is in tier 1. It's actually worse than Oceanside. It will cover the entire city in Solana Beach. So we're all trying to figure out how to meet the spirit of the law, if not, I mean, of course, we're required to meet the letter of the law, but I think that staff and the council's been speaking with one voice on this. Councilmember Robinson?
Thank you. City Manager, I know the original, when the law was written, it included also bus traffic and stops. Did that, I haven't followed it enough to remember, did that get removed, or is it just we don't consider it because our bus stops aren't significant enough?
Yeah, so the types of bus lines that it still does apply to are actually what's called bus rapid transit with dedicated lanes, and we don't have that in our community, but that is still written in the law, but fortunately, we're not impacted by those types of bus lines.
So this was a presentation, and we will be getting other updates from the city manager's office. So this is really to alert the community that we are really looking at every option possible, because you heard a lot of it is by right, which means we wouldn't even have a hearing before the Planning Commission or the City Council. This is not something that they basically have written into the law, no discretion. And so this is, we're looking at it under a microscope. So thank you very much, Mr. Borrego. Next, we have public communications on off-agenda topics. Item number 33. Do we have any requests to speak?
Yes, we have 2 speakers, Jimmy Knott, followed by Daniel Dominguez.
Once again, first off, I have to say that I was asked to be here tonight by different individuals since your last meeting. I was planning on taking off the night and celebrating my birthday tomorrow. But
happy birthday.
Yeah, I'm becoming older each year for some stupid reason. Thank you very much. But I want to take and bring a couple issues. First thing, I want to thank our Maintenance Services Department, and specifically for our elevators. They were really in horrible shape. And even former mayors and council members were looking and saying, now they are pristine, they're looking great. They're working well, and I would like to take and congratulate them and thank them for working along. And they heard the complaints from the public, and I want to pat them on the back and say thank you, and also for people from behind the scenes pushing the right buttons. The next thing is that with the cost of a lot of different issues in our mobile home parks with the utilities are now approaching as old as I am. I'm starting to fall apart. The utilities infrastructure in our parks are starting to fall apart. We need to consider ways of upgrading and rehabilitating those infrastructure needs within our parks. And we need the city's help. Whether it's to co-sign or getting other utilities like the PUC involved with, say, special projects to taking care of, let's say, water or something for the electrical systems, or getting no interest loans that could be set up. Because what's going to happen is very shortly, as these systems fail, it's going to fall on the backs of the homeowners. And the park owners are going to say, is it really worth it? And you're going to have a lot of people saying, what's my alternatives? They may be your next homeless group. So please start thinking about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dominguez?
Mayor Sanchez, council members, my name is Daniel Dominguez, and actually I'm here today as the chair of the Manufactured Housing Fair Practices Commission. At last month's meeting, there were 3 commissioners on the board, and the 4th one arrived, but she was late because of parking. The commission is comprised of 7 members, 2 alternates, 5 commissioners. The quorum is 3 commissioners, which is what we had momentarily at the last meeting. And that meeting was to approve the rent increases or adjust the rent increases for the mobile home parks. The Manufactured Housing Fair Practice Commission is the only body that is authorized to approve rent increases or rent adjustments. And it could be problematic if for some reason we don't have a quorum when we're supposed to approve the rent increase. It could be problematic for the residents, problematic probably for the city. I know that the city council is just inundated with the business at hand, state bills, and I understand that. I'm just here to remind you that we are like teetering on the very thin edge of not having a quorum for our commission. And I noticed that it was on the agenda for April, the appointments to the commissions, but it got pushed to next month. So hopefully we will have the appointments, and just keep in mind that the Fair Practices Commission is getting pretty thin. Thank you.
Thank you, and we are trying to get people to apply. Thank you.
Yes, I'm working on that too.
Right. Okay, that's it for that item. Last item on the agenda is item number 35. Staff recommends City Council, and that is under adoption of ordinances. Staff recommends City Council adopt an ordinance amending Article 12, Section 12.3 of the Oceanside Traffic Code by the addition to this section establishing prohibitions of heavy vehicles from using certain streets, introduced on March 25th, 2026, with a 5-0 vote. Any requests to speak from the public?
No request.
All right, move adoption. Okay, there's a motion and a second. Please title the ordinance.
Thank you. This is the second reading and adoption of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Oceanside, amending Article 12, Section 12.3 of the Oceanside Traffic Code by the addition to the section establishing prohibitions of heavy vehicles from using certain streets, specifically heavy vehicle prohibition on Loretta Street south of State Route 76.
Okay, thank you. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Actually, that was a second to the last item. The very last item is general council member comments. Any requests to speak? Any comments from council members? Councilmember Figueroa.
I want to acknowledge someone who just recently passed in our community, Mr. Kevin Hall. Last week, Oceanside lost not only an extraordinary educator, but a remarkable man, Kevin Hall. Kevin passed after a courageous battle with cancer. Many knew him as a teacher, a mentor, and a leader, especially during his time as an educator at Lincoln and Jefferson Middle School, where he inspired students through science, led the robotics club, and advised the Black Student Union. He had a gift for reaching young people, helping them believe in themselves, think critically, and dream bigger. But today I want to center something even more powerful. Kevin was a loving husband, a devoted father, and a man who lived his values every single day. Our families became friends through our community church at Mariners Church, where my wife and Kevin served together on the worship team. Through that connection, I got to know Kevin firsthand. He was faithful, steady, and full of quiet strength. He showed love just not in words, but in presence and consistency, and how he cared for his family and those around him. And nowhere was that more evident than in his role as a father. Kevin didn't just raise his sons, Rayvel and Taylin. He poured into them. He modeled integrity, discipline, and purpose in a way that is now clearly reflected in their lives. Their involvement in the NCDC, North San Diego County NAACP Youth Council speaks volumes about the foundation Kevin built with his sons, one rooted in leadership, service, and community and responsibility. That kind of impact doesn't happen by chance. It's a result of a devoted father. Kevin was also a proud member of the Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, where he served in multiple leadership roles and remained deeply committed to his mission. He co-created the Alpha Mentoring Program designed to support underrepresented at-risk youth across San Diego County. Through his work, he helped guide young men forward in education, leadership, and a path away from school to prison pipeline. Even with all his accomplishments, Kevin never lost sight of what mattered most, his family. He loved deeply, he led with intention, and he leaves behind not just memories, but a living legacy through his wife and his sons. Kevin Hall will be truly missed, but the impact of his love, especially as a husband, father, will continue for generations. His memorial service will be this Sunday at Mariners Church in the afternoon. So if anyone's interested, they can reach out to my office and I'll provide more information.
All right, we'll go ahead and adjourn in his honor. Okay. Any other requests? Looks like no. So we are going to adjourn to the next meeting, which is next Wednesday, Council Budget Workshop, 5:30, which is April 15th, and then April 22nd is our regular council meeting at 5 p.m. And let's have a moment of silence. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.